Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Marvel, Kryptonian, Man of Steel and Travel Across the Dimension. Chapter 1. It would be nice if I could experience the feeling of being a Kryptonian in my lifetime. In an ordinary house, after a hard day's work, the young man turned on his computer and watched the latest DC animation. He was envious of the invulnerable and flying Superman Clark. Then his eyes suddenly went dark and he immediately fainted. When he woke up, he found himself in a place full of English letters, and he was sitting on a public seat. The passerby next to him was startled by his sudden awakening, and then he walked away quickly. Where is this? The young man's mind was in chaos, and then a lot of information flooded into his mind. Oh my God, I really traveled through time. Someone who didn't know where fulfilled his wish and made him travel through time. No, can you give me a deluxe version? Luther sighed, trying to impress the mysterious existence. But the mysterious existence had left, and after Luther called for dozens of times without a response, he could only accept it. Fortunately, I became a Kryptonian, but I don't know if it's the movie version or the comic version. By the way, where is this place? Luther looked at the English words all over the street, and then he saw it. Captain America nostalgic film is released, and the most popular actor Jackson stars in Captain America. Tony Stark was revealed to have spent the night with the latest cover model last night. Thanks to the sun, Luther suddenly felt his mind clear up. The English he learned many years ago and the level he took are all back now. So he understood the words above. Wait, Captain America nostalgic movie. Tony Stark sleeps with the cover model. Luther's mind suddenly lit up, and he immediately knew what world he had come to. It turned out to be the Marvel Universe. It's really a series that I never expected. I still want to go to a more relaxed world. Luther suddenly felt a severe headache, and a lot of information poured into his brain. He heard a couple arguing 1 kilometer away, and saw someone killing someone in an apartment more than 500 meters away. The noisy sound and the large amount of information made Luther feel a splitting headache, as if his brain was about to explode. But then, the brain's computing power and thinking speed soared, quickly processing this information and blocking a lot of junk information. Super hearing, super vision, super brain. Luther knew that he had awakened the ability of Kryptonians by basking in the sun. It was great that the yellow sun in the Marvel world was useful to Kryptonians. He was still worried that he would not be able to adapt to the local climate. All his potential was stimulated, and every neuron connection emitted a vibrant and dazzling light. Luther could instantly recall anything he had read, seen or heard. Leave here first. He noticed that his movements had attracted attention, especially because he unconsciously trampled on the ground because of the pain, leaving 2 lines of footprints on the hard concrete floor. Finding that there were no cameras nearby, Luther immediately burst out at a very fast speed and left the scene. Where should he go next? Luther thought about it. The unknown existence just gave him everything that Kryptonians have. He just looked at the glass and it was still his own appearance. Well, it was still the original product. So he should be a flesh-wearing. I don't have an identity, and it's not easy to get along with the identity of a Chinese here. Luther decided to find a kind person to help. Puff. In a small alley, a gangster fell to the ground with foam at the mouth. Luther calmly turned out bundles of change from him. Good brothers are of course these helpful street urchins, but Luther knew that ordinary street urchins didn't have much money on them, so after thinking calmly for a while, he began to look for those urchins selling goods. By the way, use super speed to disguise yourself, just wear a pair of sunglasses and modify your hairstyle. Anyway, in the eyes of the old Americans, Chinese, Koreans, and ordinary people all look the same. The thug who was targeting him had obviously sold a lot of goods. The small bundles of change were estimated to be several thousand US. With the strength of the Kryptonian who awakened all superpowers, it was easy to knock him down. After Luther left, he went to find a library. He would arrange an identity for himself next. It was good to be a native who did whatever he wanted, but Luther preferred to hide himself, especially in the face of the 2 threats of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One and Captain Marvel. To learn hacking technology, you first need to have a preliminary understanding of the basic computer disciplines. The library is the best place. By the way, he also took a laptop from a thug's backpack on the roadside. The whole process was so fast that no one noticed. In the early stage, you need to learn basic commands, including DOS commands and commands under Unix Linux. Luther feels like he is omnipotent now. His super brain makes his thinking extremely agile. The initial learning took him less than a few minutes, and then the midterm learning was all the steps to build a server under Windows. Master things like Google hacking, cookies, phishing, social engineering, and more. He learned hacker skills faster than the protagonist in Endless, and the whole process took less than an hour. Electronic signatures, programming methods and even attack habits were all learned. FBI firewalls and networks. Pentagon. Luther even tried to use a simple notebook to hack into several major intelligence agencies in the United States. It is well known that these intelligence agencies are attacked by various hackers from all over the world every day. Luther failed once and was almost tracked down. The other party bypassed his chicken, and then Luther learned his ideas and operating methods and completed the counterattack in an instant. The Rising Tide Organization. Luther curiously searched for this hacker organization on the internet. The hacker skills of Sky, the Shockwave Girl, can be said to have reached the level of my imagination. With a second-hand notebook, she can hack into the firewall built by Tony Stark of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now that Luther understands hackers, he has no idea how the other party did it. However, the Rising Tide organization does not have a fixed server, and it cannot be found without action, so Luther gave up and arranged an identity for himself, and attacked major banks by the way to steal funds from those anonymous accounts. In the end, he became the illegitimate son of a company from an indescribable country, and came to America after inheriting a large inheritance. As a foreigner, Luther naturally had no idea of getting an American green card or naturalization. On the contrary, he used this large inheritance to invest in the stock market and go to Las Vegas casino openly. While winning a large sum of money, Luther was still thinking about a question: why Clark Kent, who also has a super brain, lives so poor. His adoptive parents were worried about the farm, but they couldn't pay, and the house was about to be taken away by the bank. It was Batman who bought the bank to save them. I don't want to expose my power, but it doesn't matter if I'm a little smart, right? Just like now, Luther casually won $1 billion with a few $1 million in Las Vegas casino. Not only did Las Vegas not embarrass him, but it even sent a team of bodyguards to follow and protect him throughout the whole process, and also arranged a high-end security hotel for him to live in. After all, the casino is actually very happy that you can win big money. This is equivalent to a living signboard, which will attract more gamblers to come, and the money earned from them can be recovered quickly, and can be multiplied several times. As for arranging bodyguards, it was even simpler. It was nothing more than worrying that competitors would deliberately make trouble and frame the casino. This made Luther very depressed. He thought there would be a classic drama, but he didn't expect it to be an unexpected development. However, he used the $1 billion to start speculating in stocks. Of course, Luther didn't do it too much, because if he was invincible, he would be targeted. Wall Street regulators and the FBI are very strict about illegally obtaining insider information of securities and making profits from it. Luther was very cautious. He only invested after learning and analyzing data. Then his $1 billion became $2.5 billion US. After this, Luther did not continue to speculate in stocks. Instead, he chose to start a company. He turned to studying and researching biological genes. After all, Luther's heart was not that big. He calmly accepted that Kryptonians would not have any problems with acclimatization when they crossed into the Marvel world. He was worried that there would be problems in the microscopic field that were difficult to observe. God knows if that unknown existence gave him the concept of a universal version of Kryptonians in the Marvel world. If not, he didn't want to die in obscurity. Boss, you are the most talented person I have ever seen, an unprecedented genius. With a capital injection of $2 billion US, Monarch was established. The company name comes from the Monarch organization in the Godzilla series. Luther's first step was to find the scientific research leaders in the field of biological genes, invite them to join the company or become his teachers, and then Luther learned their knowledge at an astonishing speed. Anyway, there was already a Tony Stark who became a thermonuclear astrophysicist in just one night, so he was not amazing. Professor Landa, thank you for your guidance. Luther smiled and nodded. He spent a month studying, and now he can say that he has completed the knowledge summary in the field of biological genes. If he has the thinking of a scientific researcher, he can definitely become a super scientific researcher. Unfortunately, Luther has no idea of cultivating his own way of thinking and pattern. Because of his nationality and race, Monarch Company cannot get the advanced instruments in various biological laboratories. The American technical level in this regard is locked. But it doesn't matter. Luther himself is a super machine that surpasses all human instruments. Supervision is more advanced and powerful than all human observation techniques, and the computing and analysis capabilities of the super brain also surpass those of supercomputers. It was just difficult to extract cells. Luther had awakened the iron body and the bioforce field, which made his own physical resistance maxed out. In addition, after so many days of sun exposure, it was hard to say whether he could withstand nuclear bombs. At least he was confident that missiles could not break his defense. In the end, he still found a way to extract his own cells and began to study the various reactions of his cells in the sun. This lasted for a year. During this process, Luther sealed himself up and prohibited exposure to sunlight. Sample number 115, in good condition. Sample number 191, in good condition. Sample number 239, in good condition. Luther put down the data and breathed a sigh of relief. For a year, various samples were exposed to sunlight of different durations, environments, and intensities. The result was that all samples survived and did not show any adverse changes. The cells of Kryptonians are very active and can survive as long as there is sunlight. Luther was exposed to the sun again after a long absence and stretched his body comfortably. In 1 year, the Emperor Building, which cost $500 million, has been completed. Compared with the Stark Building, which will cost $600 million in the future, the Emperor Building is more defensive, with a main steel structure, concrete-wrapped steel, alloy bottom layer, etc., so it is very expensive. Since the construction began, the Emperor Company has been losing money. After all, Luther has only stayed in his own laboratory until now, and no one knows what he does. Luther naturally wouldn't care about this. In fact, he had already started his own layout. Enter the field of human body enhancement. In this field, there are many competitors, such as the well-known Osborne Enterprises, General Ross, the military representative who hunts the Hulk, Industrial Killian, the pioneer in the research and improvement of the extremis virus, and others. It's just that Osborne Enterprises has been researching this aspect for many years without any results. The Parkers destroyed all the information on the spider serum and escaped. The danger of the Green Goblin serum has not yet been resolved. Not to mention General Ross, who firmly believes that catching the Hulk will solve the problem, research more Hulks, and the military's research on super soldier serum, etc. As for extremis virus's Killian, he is probably still working on the flaws of extremis virus. It can be said that this is a huge market. He only needs to solve the problem of people possibly occupying his company and products, and there will be no problem. For Luther, this happened to be no problem at all. Whoever attacks you can just kill the other party. This is a real-life business war. More importantly, he is a foreigner, and he has something that can be said to have an infinite market share. At worst, if America can't stay, she can go elsewhere. You said that America is the most free and fair country with existing private ownership and constitutional protection, so this situation is impossible. Even if Luther was not a foreigner, in the face of huge interests, these private ownership and constitutions are just toys of capitalists and plutocrats. If the above problems are solved, countless orders from America's Department of Defense will come one after another. Many big shots in the military are very interested in biotechnology such as human enhancement technology. I really have a headache, but I feel okay. Luther was reading a book at this time. The cover of the book was called Introduction to Hypnosis Techniques. Then 10 minutes later, he had put down the book and started studying online. Half an hour later, Luther was contacting the top brass of America's military. It was said to be a connection, but in fact it was just a matter of obtaining the information of these high-level military officials through hacker technology, and then Luther selected a general with the same rank as Thunderbolt General Ross. An hour later, Luther successfully sneaked into the other party's home and came face to face with him. "Who are you?" "General Kelson D. Shewhite looked at the man sitting on his sofa in front of him, wearing a long black trench coat, sunglasses, and a slicked back hair. He did not rashly alert the guards outside, because a pistol was naturally released. On the sofa next to the other person's legs. "Please take a seat, General Shewhite." Luther smiled, and Shewhite frowned. Luther exuded a confident temperament. He had never seen this kind of confidence in many people. If he were not arrogant, then it means he is confident. And a person who can sneak into his room without alerting his guards is obviously not the first type. He sat down, looking directly at Luther, with his back straight. His face had the kind of expression that was not angry but full of vicissitudes and toughness of a soldier. This is a solid veteran, and it is not surprising to Luther that he has such a temperament. "I'm here to bring you some benefits, General. Don't be nervous." That's what Luther said, but he had already begun to put Shewhite into a hypnotic state through suggestions and inducements through words and actions. In fact, in the Marvel universe, there are very powerful hypnotists, such as Hydra, who can make a SHIELD agent who has received various trainings walk back and forth on the road just by turning the ring on his hand. Wandering around and then crashed into a big truck. It can only be said to be a bit mysterious. And the hypnosis exerted by Luther, a Kryptonian, is even more mysterious. "General Shewhite, I need to contact several other powerful generals. If you have the ability, you don't have to be a fool, and Luther certainly can't use it." This kind of suggestion based on hypnosis is just Luther's method of brainwashing, but it is enough to turn several military generals into his own. This is a good way to solve it once and for all. Therefore, Luther successfully persuaded several generals of the Ministry of National Defense to sell the flagship product that his imperial company was about to launch, Super Soldier No. 1 drug as an arms sale. Super Soldier I is a derivative of Luther's research on his own cells, not Kryptonian cells, just like Super Soldier was able to develop a superhuman drug that allows humans to take superhuman abilities. The difference is that this Super Soldier No. 1 can only double the physical strength, which can enhance the user's metabolic function and all body functions. However, although it seems small, in fact, even if it only doubles the physical strength of ordinary people, it will be very exaggerated. Basically, it's similar to Captain America and Bucky the Winter Soldier. So the military is very happy, but this kind of Super Soldier No. 1 is very expensive to build, as Luther said, so the price is naturally not cheap. After the Ministry of Defense and the American military tried the effect of Super Soldier Compound No. 1, they placed a 50-year order with the Imperial Company. This order is that within 50 years, all of the output of Super Soldier Compound No. 1 of the Imperial Company will be purchased by the military. It is equivalent to the military buying out the 50-year order of the Imperial Company. You know, this thing is not cheap, and Luther did not feel embarrassed to ask for more, and directly asked for $10 million per bottle. By the way, when the military protested, Luther added that Super Soldier Compound No. 1 can also delay cell aging, allowing the injected super soldiers to maintain a longer combat state. Anyway, after he added this sentence, the military never said anything about protesting the price, but urged the Imperial Company to produce more Super Soldier Compound No. 1 as soon as possible. But Luther naturally could not accept this order. If it were other companies and industrial groups, they would probably be very happy. Osborne Industries also received a similar order, which is why they have so much endless funds, but they are still studying. Without this funding, it is still unknown whether Osborne Industries can reach 1/10 of its current size. But Luther wants to open up the world market, and no one can compete with him in market share. In this case, why should he be bought out by America? When Luther refused and said that Compound No. 1 belonged to everyone, not America, the military representatives who were not controlled by Luther were very angry and said that Luther had to abide by American laws when doing business in America. Of course, even if you don't do business in America, you have to abide by American laws. This is how a big company that can't afford to play solved its competitors in other countries. Is Luther a person who can be threatened? I used to swallow my anger because I was an ordinary person, but now I have become a Kryptonian. This world doesn't have Kryptonite, Superman, or Batman. The Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One doesn't seem to want to care about me. I still have to swallow my anger. Am I still a Kryptonian? Therefore, without fear of the other party's assassination, Luther said that he had planned to establish a branch in a certain vodka-ula country, and he did not rule out finding a piece of land in Asia to establish a branch. Then, Luther encountered an assassination. You really don't know how to live or die, and you really dare to assassinate me. Luther looked at the guys in black clothes and black pants who were lying on the ground in front of him speechlessly. All the technical information of the Emperor Company was not left on the company's computer. Luther knew very well that no matter how powerful the firewall he set up was, it was not safe in the Marvel world. With perverted hackers like Sky, there would naturally be weaker but equally unreasonable hackers. It would be safer for him to keep everything in his own mind. Anyway, it is impossible for someone to extract the memory of a Kryptonian. Those Kryptonian cells were all eaten and digested by Luther himself, without any residue. If the military and the Ministry of Defense want to take action against the employees of the Emperor Company, that would be even better. Luther would directly go to the vodka country in Asia to open a branch and turn it into the head office. Perhaps they investigated Luther's background, and felt that Luther was not to be feared, so they took action directly. Several professionals with guns couldn't subdue a scientific researcher. Then they didn't expect that they really couldn't subdue him. Instead, several professionals were easily knocked unconscious by Luther. Then Luther hypnotized them and asked about their employers or the masterminds behind the scenes. After successfully getting the answer, Luther did not humanely destroy them, but kept them and slowly hypnotized and brainwashed them into his own people. He just needed professionals in this area, and now there are people delivered to his door, so he wouldn't waste them. However, this is only the first attack. After finding that it was unsuccessful, there will definitely be more temptations. The benefits and value of compound number 1 are so great that no one can resist its temptation. Luther didn't care, he went straight to the door, and then hypnotized and brainwashed them. What he likes most is to turn his enemies into his friends. Why do you have to be so extreme? Can't you just be my running dog? These big shots are usually hard to see, and they are almost never seen by the public. But now Luther can easily contact them, find their hiding places, and then turn them into his running dogs and annex their power. Isn't that good? Really, I just want to do business with you. Why do you have to force me? Luther looked at the big shot who was kneeling and rolling on the ground in front of him and said with a smile, "Good dog, come here." Luther called out, and the other party climbed up with a howl, crawled in front of Luther, and was rewarded with a big bone by Luther. Then he really chewed the bone like a dog. Even if he was bleeding and his teeth were broken, he still ate it with relish. After Luther was attacked one after another and solved the shit cooker behind the scenes, everything calmed down. With the help of these shit cookers behind the scenes, Emperor Company also stood firm and became a new enterprise. The most important thing is that in the eyes of outsiders, Emperor Company actually withstood the pressure from America. They don't think that calm means no impact at all. Only fools will be so naive, and fools who grew up in America will not be so naive. Even after knowing that Emperor Company actually contacted vodka and other sensitive countries to promote Super Soldier No. 1 compound, and America did not care, they knew that Emperor Company was not simple. Becoming a cooperative enterprise of the Ministry of Defense, it means that they also have a deep influence in politics. Although it is not known whether the relationship between the big boss behind Emperor Company is the Elephant Party or the Donkey Party. America's political system is divided into the Elephant Party and the Donkey Party, and they are fighting every day. The Elephant Party is the most powerful on the surface. The current president and vice president and some senior military officials are their people. Most of the members of the Donkey Party are in opposition, so it seems that they are not as good as the ruling Elephant Party. But who can say for sure about this kind of thing? It just depends on whether the big figures behind the Elephant Party and the Donkey Party are willing to take action. Luther doesn't know about this. Of course, even if he knows, he won't care whether he controls the Elephant Party or the Donkey Party or both. What do these things have to do with him, a time traveler and a Kryptonian? In this case, the Emperor Company soon received a lot of friendly visits. These people saw the potential of Super Soldier Compound No. 1 and wanted to invest, but the Emperor Company did not accept any investment or listing ideas for the time being. The Emperor Company turned losses into profits from a state of continuous losses, which made the company's employees confident in their work. Who would have thought that the threshold for the signboard was average at the beginning, and graduates from famous universities such as Ivy League universities could enter the company, but now it has become a supergiant. Monopoly of a commodity. What is the most profitable business in this world? Monopoly. And it is a company that does not even use antitrust laws. Isn't it just lying down and counting money? America placed an order of a full $1 billion with Emperor Company. It may not sound like much, but don't forget how much Emperor Company invested. This is equivalent to half of it. Luther thought that America might not give up and planned to buy a batch for research. Don't think that America will not do this. She will only pay money to major companies to buy directly. That is when the benefits are not so great. Now, the super soldier compound number 1 of Emperor Company may be taken over by people like General Ross for research. But this is not a problem for Luther at all. It is the advertising and publicity of Emperor Company that has caused heated discussions across the United States. Triskelion Building. This is the headquarters of the Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. On a hot summer day, a one-eyed black-skinned braised egg wearing a big black leather coat was looking at the news with a serious face. It was the publicity of Emperor Company. Compound number 1, the hope of human evolution, doubles physical strength, easily breaks world records, breaking human limits is no longer a dream. Compound number 1, anti-aging, maintain youth. Something big has happened. Nick Fury's face turned ugly and darker. This suddenly emerging Emperor Company has not made any moves for a year after its establishment. It has only recruited scientific researchers in the biological field and nothing has happened. Unexpectedly, it has made such big news all of a sudden. All mankind has evolved. If it were that simple, it would be fine, but Nick Fury saw chaos from this. If everyone has become a superhuman, then do the weapons have to be upgraded as well? Otherwise, how can you subdue these superhumans? If the weapons are upgraded, other countries will definitely have to upgrade as well, which will be another round of arms race. More importantly, it's okay for big countries, everyone is very restrained and doesn't want to destroy the world. What about small countries? After becoming superhumans, if the conflicts of small countries do not escalate and the destruction does not become stronger, can they still be called superhumans? I didn't expect that America would succeed in developing a super soldier. Nick Fury's face was grim. He knew that the super soldier project and human enhancement technology had always been studied by others, such as Osborne Industries, but he originally thought that it was a series that would happen in his lifetime. Didn't you see that there has been a Captain America since World War II? Now, with $10 million, you can become a super soldier. Nick Fury's headache was not this, but that Monarch did not select its customers. It sold to any customer. If it was bought by terrorists. In addition, Monarch, a small company with no background, invented such a powerful thing and it was still calm, so Nick Fury thought that America had developed the super soldier technology. The Imperial Company is just a company launched by America to hide from others. Nick Fury is not a good person, and there is no way a level 10 agent can be a good person. He also knows that there is no way to ban arms smuggling, but he is just too lazy to pay attention to the arms smuggling of small weapons. If arms smuggling of strategic value and significance like Stark Industries, Nick Fury will definitely pursue it to the end. The problem is that Luther cleverly defined super soldier compound number 1 as a health product, rather than a weapon. The definition of health care products is huge, and even if it is recognized by the pharmaceutical field, Nick Fury will not be able to do anything to it. Everyone knows America's medical system, but not just anyone can plug into it. It seems these guys want to make war fortune. From the perspective of the medical system and America's attitude, Nick Fury thought this was America's new way to make money, just like sending CIA agents to provoke conflicts and disputes, cultivating and arming terrorists, etc. If there is a war, America can make money. It's just that I didn't expect that this time it would become a human enhancement technology. These guys really don't think it's a big deal. So Nick Fury planned to warn America that he would not allow such mass-produced human enhancement technology to enter the market. He could allow the Big Five to possess them because they already had the most lethal and deterrent weapons, so it didn't matter if they had one more. But small countries cannot do that. If a small country gets this thing, it will definitely lead to constant wars and conflicts. Nick Fury plans to put people in. This situation in the Imperial Company must be controlled. Based on growth rate and sales, boss, the valuation of our imperial company has exceeded 50 billion. Luther's secretary is an authentic British person, a top student who graduated from the Department of Financial Management but has no work experience. After all, if she has work experience for the position she is applying for, it means that the problem with her previous job is either her problems or either her former company's problems. No matter which problem it is, there is something troublesome. And Michelle has done a good job so far. Luther can also understand those complicated formula models, saving Michelle the need to translate them. Emperor Corporation will not participate in securities transactions, Luther said calmly. Therefore, calculating the valuation is meaningless. Luther does not intend to sell shares and stocks, so he naturally does not care about the price at which he will sell them. I understand, boss. Michelle couldn't understand why Luther refused to expand the scale of Imperial Company. Wouldn't it be a good thing for someone to invest? That way the development would be faster. Of course, she also has selfish motives and wants to get some shares of Emperor Company. After all, everyone can see now that Emperor Company has a huge and unfathomable background, and it has monopolized the market. A business that is guaranteed to make a profit, just like shares of Stark Industries. If you join the company before it goes public, the company may issue shares to employees when it goes public. If the stock goes up after the company goes public, you will make money. You can also get dividends from company stock. According to Michelle's calculations, if divided into 1 million shares, each share would be worth at least $1,000. But after Michelle thought about it, she felt that Luther might be a very controlling person. While listing brings huge profits to the bosses, it also puts forward many regulatory requirements, exposing the company as a whole to the public eye. If the boss puts forward some illegal or non-compliant requirements, employees can confidently list the company. Regulation does not allow this to be used as an excuse to refuse. Luther was a well-deserved genius, and he was very handsome. He was very different from the Chinese people she had seen in school. This difference is not only reflected in Luther's poetry and calligraphy now, but also in his unparalleled self-confidence after becoming a Kryptonian. His temperament exudes from the inside out, and his every move is full of power. Luther could only be regarded as a handsome boy among ordinary people. His appearance was like that of an ordinary person among handsome boys. After a year of subtle optimization and transformation by the Kryptonians, he can now be said to be very handsome and unforgettable. Michelle prides herself on seeing many charming beauties, elegant gentlemen, and elegant sportsmen, but this is the first time she has seen one like Luther. She felt that the men she had seen before could not be considered men, and it was difficult not to be attracted by him, but Luther seemed to be only averagely interested in her. We have completed the billion-dollar order from the American government, but there are still more orders, boss, and we need to expand production. Michelle continued. The order of 1 billion is for 100 super soldier compound number 1. Michelle knew that Emperor Company produced compound number 1, all of which came from Luther's underground base. She thought she could expand the production, otherwise she would wait for Luther to manufacture and synthesize it. If so, it would be too time-consuming. Production will ramp up soon. Luther nodded. He had already hypnotized several scientific researchers and asked them to produce the number 1 compound day and night according to the formula. The contract is about to be signed. If you haven't invested yet, invest quickly and you can make a fortune. I signed a contract today, but I don't know when the status will change. The reason why he wanted to start a company was to sell Super Soldier number 1 compound. In addition to making money, Luther also plans to use this human enhancement technology to cover up his own power. After all, there is DC Comics in the Marvel world, but here, DC Comics are real comics, not the DC universe. His abilities are highly similar to Superman, so people may think that he is a Kryptonian or something. Although there is no kryptonite in this world, there is magic in this world, and I don't know if there will be a red sun. Even if there is no red sun, it is not impossible for humans to study and analyze. For example, Tony Stark, the man cursed by knowledge, and Mr. Fantastic Reed Richard, this is a guy who can do whatever he wants, and is constantly using black technology to make it incredible. What if they study the spectrum of the red sun and give themselves a shot? Therefore, Luther took precautions and developed human body enhancement technology. He planned to say in the future that he was using the most advanced human body enhancement technology developed, and what he sold to others was just obsolete old products. This is what America's companies do, and America's government and officials are used to it, and it's commonplace. Almost all the advanced technologies and high-end products in this country are purchased from capitalist companies, such as famous brands such as Boeing and General Electric. Under the inducement of interests and money, companies in this country are very active in developing advanced technologies to make profits. But they will not sell the best things to America. This is actually a very easy to understand truth. If they sell the best technology from the beginning, wouldn't the backward technology or defective products produced during the development process be equivalent to waste and have no value? This is unacceptable to capitalists who believe that maximizing profits is the only qualified capitalist. They planned to sell the stones to make money, so how could they let these defective products go? Of course, we need to package it, give a concept, leave an idea, and set expectations, and then sell these backward things to squeeze out all their value. It's like selling one generation of products while developing fourth or even fifth generation products. When Luther did this, other than making people jealous and thinking that he was too outrageous and had so much to hide, no one would think that he was a natural mutant or alien. There are many mutants in the Marvel world. They are not mutants. These mutants usually suddenly awaken superpowers or something. There are also mutations caused by the research on super soldier technology. Grab a lot of them, Marvel. A lot of villains come from this. In other words, they are a race. Luther has too many abilities. Mutants and aliens usually only have one ability, or at most 2 or 3 abilities. And he has heat vision, super strength, freeze breath, super speed, super defense, flight, etc. It doesn't look like he was created by mutation. They would naturally think that Luther was probably a fan of Superman and had used technology to synthesize and transform himself, so his abilities were so similar. Of course, he is not in a hurry to reveal his superpowers yet. Tony Stark also placed an order with us. Luther looked at the information thoughtfully. He was learning programming recently and planned to build an artificial intelligence like Jarvis to help him handle the affairs of Emperor Company. He didn't need Jarvis's source code, so maybe there is a possibility that Tony Stark could use the possible backdoor or vulnerability to invade. Tony Stark is very interested in Compound Number 1, a human enhancement technology that seems to have no side effects so far. America is very cautious and uses part of it for research and part of it for injections into willing American soldiers. By the way, Tony Stark also condemned Monarch's sale of Compound Number 1 to local armed groups in Afghanistan, believing that Luther was funding America's enemies. It's a pity that the self-proclaimed righteous man didn't know that all kinds of advanced weapons of his company had been smuggled and sold to Afghanistan. Otherwise, I don't know if he could be so arrogant. Luther has long been mentally prepared for the pressure from public opinion. Part of it is the temptation of capitalists, and part of it is the behavior of keyboard warriors who claim to be righteous. However, for Luther, he only needs to make money, regardless of reputation. He is now staying in a room designed by himself, which can maximize the intensity and exposure of sunlight. Kryptonians have upper limits. Not all Kryptonians are super and can transcend the limitations of their own genes. Luther speculated that he only needed to keep bathing in the sun for such a long time, and all his cells would soon be saturated, and by then he would be unable to continue to become stronger. But that's not necessarily the case. Maybe the long exposure can allow him to evolve slowly. Ordinary Kryptonians have their limits, so I have to figure out how to turn myself into a doomsday that won't lose control. Kryptonian genes are technically blocked. If other people study them, it is easy to develop doomsday. It can even be said that doomsday is a protective measure for Kryptonian genes. Super fast evolution speed plus immortal body equals the embodiment of destruction. This is enough to destroy all enemies who try to study Kryptonian genes. You said that Liebald can clone. That can only be said to be required by the plot. Luther is not interested in Marvel's plot. He is thinking about studying himself so that he can break through. At the very least, if he can obtain Doomsday's ability to adapt to evolution at super speed, he will not be afraid of any enemy. It's a pity that these Doomsdays are just ordinary Doomsdays, not the truly immortal ancient Doomsday, and they may still be killed. Through the relationship between the military and the Ministry of Defense controlled by his hypnosis, Luther got a variety of high-tech instruments. Even with the assistance of a superbrain and supervision, Luther still needs these instruments, such as operations such as cultivating Kryptonian cells. In addition, Luther also obtained a large amount of precious knowledge and technical drawings. These things were originally one of the sealed World War II black technology drawings, which belong to the theoretical science that humans have not been able to achieve until now. Unfortunately, if I had a Kryptonian spacecraft, I would not have to start from zero like now, but I don't know when I can break through zero and reach one. Luther forgot to eat and sleep. He didn't need to eat, just bask in the sun. He studied Kryptonian genes and cells and learned day and night. With the help of the superbrain, Luther took less than an hour to learn all the knowledge of human genetics, and he also completed the programming learning and created his own artificial intelligence. Megatron, how is the sample? Luther asked his artificial intelligence. Boss, sample number 10,000, all reacted normally at present, and there was no abnormality. Megatron said calmly, quote, destroy all the samples and cultivate new samples again. Luther held his forehead. Why did it fail? If the reaction was normal, it would be a failure. What he wants now is to get some doomsday cells out and study doomsday cells. Therefore, normal cells are meaningless to him. Megatron strictly followed Luther's order and inactivated and completely destroyed all Kryptonian cells. Kryptonian cells have very strong viability and survival ability. Unless the Kryptonians themselves die mentally, they can be resurrected by just basking in the sun. But it does not mean that they cannot be completely destroyed. If the power is enough, everything can be destroyed. Luther sighed and enjoyed the sunshine. The energy of the cells was also fully filled. Then Luther frowned, and he awakened new superpowers. This is not surprising. Even if Luther has awakened all the abilities of the movie version of Superman, it does not mean that he will not awaken other superpowers. After all, even the universe is different. Who knows what the laws of Kryptonians here are? The reason why Luther frowned is because it means that uncontrollable variables have appeared. The Kryptonian rules and all information he is familiar with may be subverted. The ability is crossing. Luther widened his eyes. Crossing. Crossing to where? Is it like the super Kryptonian Hale who travels through time to go back to the past or change the future? Or is it the kind of travel he knows? If so, where will he travel to? The DC universe. Can he come back after traveling? Luther doesn't know all this. The uncertainty of this superpower is too great. It shouldn't be traveling through the world. Anyway, my current energy level and magnitude can't support the power of traveling through the world. At least wait until I reach the single universe level and the father level, right? Luther scratched his head and thought hard. However, he was very curious. He was so curious that he was almost scratching his lungs. Let's try it. It's better to figure it out, so as not to keep thinking about it. If so, I can't concentrate on research. Luther decided. Just in case, he made himself a battle suit with sufficient sunlight energy built in, not for protection, but to allow him to replenish energy at any time. What kind of protection does the body of a Kryptonian need? The best protection is the double protection of the body of steel and the biological force field. As long as there is sunlight and the energy in the cells is not exhausted, everything will be fine for the Kryptonians. Come on, travel through time. Luther activated his superpowers, and with the feeling of a blender, he seemed to be stuffed into an extremely narrow passage, and his whole body was crushed. The Kryptonians, powerful steel bodies and biological force fields were as fragile as tofu. In an open space, a pile of meat paste appeared out of thin air with a pop sound and fell to the ground. After the warm and bright sunlight shone on the meat paste, something strange happened. A skeleton hand bone stretched out from the meat paste. You almost squeezed me to death. Even with Luther's magnanimous temperament, he couldn't avoid swearing now. There was no way. Who made him suffer the treatment of being torn to pieces? Even the equipment on his body was crushed. All the preparations were in vain. If it wasn't in broad daylight when he came here, he would have died. Because the energy in the cells was emptied, this superpower of crossing needs to consume the energy of all his cells, and even squeeze his vitality to complete. Things like being torn to pieces feel like a trip to the 18 levels of hell. It's good that Luther just swore. The most important thing now is find a piece of clothing first, and then avoid being exposed to the sunlight of this unknown world for a long time. In this regard, Luther is still very cautious. He didn't spend much effort. Judging from the rapid charging of sunlight, the sun in this world is very active and young, which is a very good source of power for Kryptonians. But Luther still resisted the instinct from his genes to embrace the sunlight. Anyway, he has almost recovered. Kryptonians have so many mutant versions, he doesn't want to bet that he can mutate well. What kind of world is this? Luther began to look for a place to get information, that is, a computer. In terms of technological level, this world does not seem to be low. Luther actually doesn't know whether he has traveled through the world or just ran to another place. It was not until he saw an animal wearing clothes and walking upright and talking like a human that he was sure that he had traveled through time. And Luther also found something. Universal Capsule Company. The super brain quickly started the search engine, and then Luther knew what world this was. The world of Dragon Ball. Or it can be called the world of Saiyan monkeys and his enemies. Anyway, Saiyan monkeys conquer the world. The protagonists are all Saiyans. A Saiyan with a stomach of a terrifying antimatter annihilation reactor that only needs one meal to explode a star in 100 light years. Luther pondered, and didn't expect that he would travel to the world of Dragon Ball. The world's #1 martial arts tournament has been held, but there is no Jackie Chan or the name of Wu Tian teacher, but there are Crane Immortal School and Kame Immortal School, but the reputation is average. He quickly analyzed the useful things in the Dragon Ball world. The first one is naturally the Dragon Ball, a good thing that can make wishes. No matter which time traveler, it is impossible to let go of the Dragon Ball. I just don't know if I can make a wish with the Dragon Ball as a non-local Huko. Is the wishing effect of the Dragon Ball only effective in the Dragon Ball world, or is it applicable to other worlds? He doesn't want to make a wish for an immortal body, and then run to other worlds thinking that he is immortal, but end up being beaten to death. The second one is Chi. Everyone in the Dragon Balls is a Chi mage, except Broly. With the strengthening of Chi, it can even withstand the attack of the Big Bang. Without the strengthening of Chi, the Super Saiyan God will be pushed by the train and can't move. It's really incomprehensible that they can withstand hundreds of times the gravity, but the body is still so fragile. At the same time, Chi is almost omnipotent, and can develop electric Chi, such as the 10,000 nations shocking palm. In this way, it should be possible to turn into fire, ice, etc. The most important thing is that the destructive power of Chi is very strong. 200 points of combat power can destroy the moon. In terms of mass, the mass of Chi is estimated to be far greater than nuclear energy. According to the setting of Dragon Ball, Chi is the most fundamental energy in the body of living things. With practice or training, this energy can be freely manipulated. The hidden energy in the body of life, as well as the spiritual power such as righteousness, evil, courage, and vitality, all belong to Chi. Chi can make the body exceed the limit. In the world of Chinese boxing represented by Tai Chi, great importance is attached to the training and control of Chi. The magician Babidi in Dragon Ball Z invented a machine to measure and absorb Chi, but modern technology on Earth can neither measure Chi nor store Chi. However, sometimes you will gain vitality and courage when you are encouraged by others. Although Chi cannot be seen, it does exist. This is Chi. Although Luther already has a means of energy attack such as heat vision, Chi is better. Because Chi can produce many special superpowers, such as the mind reading mastered by Sun Wukong touching the head to read Xiaolin's memory, and the turtle master Cheng Long also read the memory of Nanwu, who was short of water in his hometown, during the martial arts competition, and it was read without contact. Psychological sound transmission, preventing Xiaolin from killing Vegeta, interrupting the sound transmission between King Kai and the Great Elder, dream perception, perceiving the relevant situation of the external cell ward during the heart attack, coma, instant movement, learned from Yadrat, fusion, learned from Metamo in the underworld, and the Chi condensed entity after fusion into Vegito, piercing Buu and picking it up like a spear. Protective shield, used to prevent being absorbed when entering Buu's body, etc. These are all advanced applications of Chi. It is estimated that Chi is used to contact, to read the mind and transmit, perceive the other party's Chi, to teleport, synchronize Chi, to merge, etc., which is a very wonderful setting. Unlike some superpowers that rely on racial talents, these can be used by people who can use Chi. This thing is so wonderful and mysterious. Let's take the simplest example. The perception of qi, which can span many light years without any transmission delay, is truly a metaphysical perception. As usual, Luther first studied the situation of his cells in the sunshine of the Dragon Ball world for a period of time. Of course, in his daily life, he no longer dares to touch the sun like he did in the Marvel world. He has developed the ability to filter sunlight through a biological force field. Research has found that his cells are more active when exposed to the sun in the Dragon Ball world. I don't know whether this kind of activity is good or bad. But it didn't matter. Luther quickly found the crane immortal. Compared with Kame Sennin, Crane Sennin is obviously easier to talk to. As long as you pay money, you can learn qi development from him. Luther was very reserved when facing the crane immortal. Although the crane immortal did not have the turtle-style qigong that the turtle immortal could push away the moon, the destructive power of the qi was terrifying, and Luther didn't know if he could bear it now. At the same time, he also had to make sure he was still angry. If not, he would have to go find the Dragon Balls and make a wish. With the Kryptonian's super brain and body control ability, Hexion didn't take Luther seriously at first. You spend money and I teach you, it's that simple. As a result, Luther learned the Crane Senryu in less than an hour, and even further learned Kai. This surprised Hexionren, and even made him feel astonished. He had never encountered such an unreasonable genius as Luther. As this anger, after Luther learned to breathe, he instantly felt stronger. This kind of energy fills the whole body and strengthens the body's feeling, which is very intoxicating. What a powerful energy, apprentice. Your strength has surpassed mine. Maybe even my brother is no match for you. Hexionren said excitedly. He could feel how powerful Luther's qi was. It was a pillar of qi rising into the sky. And he didn't need to teach Luther how to control qi. Luther could control this huge qi by himself. This is unquestionable genius, genius beyond imagination. Ah, thank you, Master, then our title of Master and Disciple will end here. Luther dropped a bundle of bills. Wait. Are you leaving now, Luther? Hexionren looked at the large bundle of banknotes. It usually smelled good, but now it didn't smell good anymore. He felt that Luther smelled better. Goodbye. Luther bursts out of super speed and disappears. He felt his own qi continuously pouring out. The Kryptonian's qi was so powerful that it was beyond imagination that Luther didn't even know what his current combat power was. Anyway, when there is no awakening energy, he feels that Crane Sennin can barely compete with him, but he has retained his strength, so the combat power may be more than 100 points of combat power according to the calculation of Dragon Ball. Now, I don't know. Because with the strengthening of qi, his current strength is beyond imagination. Let me think about it. Is there anything else worth taking from the Dragon Balls, such as the super divine water to stimulate its potential? Luther thought of super holy water. Super holy water is different from the previous super holy water. Super holy water is actually ordinary water, and super holy water does have unpredictable divine power just like its name. Super divine water can activate one's own potential and greatly improve combat effectiveness. However, super divine water is highly poisonous. People who drink super divine water must first have a pure heart, otherwise they will be poisoned to death by super divine water. Super divine water is a treasure left by the gods of the earth. When humans drink it, they must first resist the toxicity in order to activate their potential. There are also fairy beans. Needless to say, this thing is incredible. The problem is that it cannot be taken away because the passage is too narrow. If the potential inspired by the super divine water is Sun Wukong's gorilla, could the potential inspired by the Kryptonian be the son of destruction? Luther thought thoughtfully. As for whether he would be poisoned to death, just kidding. When Kryptonians are basking in the sun, it is equivalent to other people eating enhanced versions of fairy beans all the time. It would be weird if it could really poison a Kryptonian. Finding Kalen Tower is very simple. Luther doesn't need to climb up, he can just fly up. Who are you? The cat immortal on the tower saw Luther suddenly appearing and immediately became alert. Because it sensed Luther's aura, that constantly surging and majestic aura. I mean no harm, cat sage. Luther said to the cat immortal. What brings you here? The cat fairy asked. I want super divine water. Luther said with a smile. Do you actually know about super divine water? Did that guy Wu Tian tell you about it? The cat immortal was a little surprised. However, you have to think carefully. Everyone who has drank the super magical water so far has died. It doesn't matter, isn't there someone else who has succeeded? Luther shook his head. All right, the cat immortal would not refuse. He turned around and took out a teapot with the word, Xian, on it from the room. Luther breathed a sigh of relief. It was the comic version of the super divine water. If it were an original animation, you would have to go to the northern labyrinth and accept the test of inner darkness before you could meet a mountain god and get the super divine water. Luther didn't know if he had the patience to make such a trip. That's enough to drink. The cat immortal poured out a cup, handed it to Luther and said. Chapter 11. Luther took the super divine water handed over by the cat fairy, and the purple liquid showed a strange color in the cup. By the way, cat fairy, have you washed this cup? Luther suddenly asked. Cat fairy's forehead was sweating, and he was confused by Luther's question. Just a joke. Luther laughed, and then swallowed the super divine water in one gulp. Come on. The cup fell to the ground, and Luther felt a burning pain burning from his throat, followed by a pain that seemed to tear his whole body apart. He did not roll on the ground and struggle in pain. Luther calmly used the super brain to analyze the condition of his body and block the pain of his body. Before coming, his cells had stored a lot of sunlight energy, and there was a super brain monitoring. Once the energy was insufficient, he would go out to bask in the sun. Cat Fairy looked at Luther in shock. After so many years, it was the first time it saw someone drink the super divine water without sadness, joy, pain, or feeling. If it hadn't felt that Luther's breath was sometimes strong and sometimes weak, and it was unpredictable, it would have thought that Luther was dead. What an amazing willpower, to be able to endure such pain. The cat immortal was very surprised. Then Luther didn't struggle for 5 or 6 hours, and the Kryptonian cells suddenly became more active, and then the cat immortal seemed to see a hideous monster roaring at him. It was instantly shocked. Is this Luther's potential? This potential is too terrible. Luther breathed a sigh of relief and fell to the ground. Although he blocked the pain, his body was still inevitably weak, because pain is a warning from the body, not to say that if the pain is blocked, it will be fine. However, the recovery speed is also very fast, and it can be felt in the blink of an eye. The current strength is stronger than before. After Sun Wukong drank the super divine water, his combat power doubled from 180 to 260. In terms of the potential of the Saiyan, doubling is definitely less, so the effect of the super divine water in tapping potential is not very strong. Luther didn't know his own fighting power. He was not satisfied with his current strength. He was probably not as strong as Raditz. What else could he be satisfied with? The next step was to make a wish to the Dragon Ball. Luther had thought about whether he could use Shenlong to unlock the genetic restrictions. He also wanted to be infinitely stronger like Clark. He also wanted to try to unlock the Doomsday mode through Shenlong. Of course, the Earth Shenlong and Namek Dragon Ball might be a bit shaky. Maybe only Super Dragon Ball could do it. However, it would be unreasonable to come to the Dragon Ball world without learning some black technology, especially the capsule technology. Maybe it could allow him to take out what he wanted to take away. A small thing like a capsule should not be crushed. If even the capsule didn't work, Luther planned to go back to Marvel and try Pym particles. His superpowers could travel back and forth between Marvel and Dragon Ball. There was a coordinate in his perception, and Luther could also open new coordinates. It was a very strange feeling. Thank you, Cat Immortal. Can you give me some senzu beans and super divine water? Luther asked politely. You have already developed your potential, why do you still need the super divine water? The cat fairy was very puzzled, but he still gave it generously, because Luther took out a bunch of fish for it. The cat fairy had no idea where Luther got these fish from. Of course, Luther just activated his super speed and ran to the nearby river to catch them. Little Sun Wukong was able to run to the audience to snatch the sunglasses of Game Master and put them back on when facing the light of the Sun Fist. My Kryptonian super speed and combat power are stronger than that of little Wukong. It's not surprising to do such a thing, right? Luther not only took away a whole jar of super divine water from the cat fairy, but also moved 5 or 6 jars of senzu beans. The senzu beans in this period were calculated by jars, and there were several full jars. Finally, when it came to the period of Dragon Ball Z, it was difficult to collect a small bag, and the number was so scarce that it could only be calculated by grain. Ineffective against diseases. Senzu beans can restore physical strength and treat external and internal injuries, but they cannot cure diseases other than Shin. In the chapter of the artificial man, Goku was tortured by viral heart disease, but senzu beans were powerless. This caused Goku to die young, and indirectly led to the demise of the Z warriors and the tragic future of Trunks. With the characteristics of the Saiyans and the effect of senzu beans, the Saiyans can grow rapidly. Cat Immortal, please work hard to grow senzu beans. I will bring fish to see you often. When Luther left with satisfaction, he also said to the Cat Immortal, "Is that so? I understand." The Cat Immortal didn't care. Senzu beans were useless to him. If Luther wanted, he could help him. From the breath, the Cat Immortal felt that Luther's breath was not evil, and he was very polite. It was very rare for such a strong man. Luther wanted to take the super divine water for research. Luther was very interested in the fact that this thing could help people develop their potential. Luther then went to the capsule company headquarters to visit Dr. Brief. There are a lot of black technologies in the Dragon Ball world. Whether it is capsule technology or Dr. Grow from the Red Satin Army behind him, he can actually develop artificial human technology that can compete with Super Saiyan head-on, which makes Luther envious. How can we travel through the world of Dragon Ball without engaging in technology? I just don't know if these black technologies can be used in other universes. Dr. Breve is easy to talk to. Even if someone he doesn't know comes to visit, he doesn't have the airs of a big company boss and just comes out to greet him. But if Luther catches up with his research, he may not have time to pay attention to Luther. "Hello, Dr. Brive, I am a researcher who admires you very much and I want to study with you." Luther said straight to the point. "Well, thank you for your respect." Dr. Briff didn't know what to say. He had seen many such enthusiastic fans. Most of the scientific researchers were like this. But when it comes to studying, he has no shortage of assistants. Dr. Brive has not recruited assistants for so many years and has done all the work himself. He didn't want to say it directly, which would affect the enthusiasm of the young people. "Dr. Breve, you can assign me a topic to test my ability," Luther said directly. "Is this so?" Brive was a little surprised by Luther's confidence, and at the same time thought this was a good idea. So he arranged a difficult problem for Luther, which he had just solved not long ago, and that was the technology to prevent the food in the capsule from spoiling. "Dr. Breve, I have not been exposed to capsule technology before, and I need prerequisite knowledge." Luther took a look and said after roughly understanding. Dr. Briff nodded, and then compiled the information for Luther. He was not worried that this technology would be leaked. If it were leaked so easily, the Universal Capsule Company would not have been dominant for so many years. Even during the Super Saiyan period, the Universal Capsule Company still the overlord of one side. Originally, Dr. Breve just wanted to get Luther to quit, so he was very patient and planned to wait for a few days. Unexpectedly, within an hour, Luther came over with his own solution. Dr. Breve was so shocked that he studied Luther's plan and found that it was much worse than his own plan, but it was also a feasible plan. The reason why there is such a difference is entirely because Breve has hidden a large part of the capsule technical information. Without these core information, Luther can develop a solution. This is no longer a genius. "Dr. Breve, did I pass?" Luther said with a smile. The super brain itself is an existence that surpasses the supercomputer by countless times. The super brain can load the knowledge of 52 universes at once. It is not a problem for Luther to install the knowledge of capsule technology. Coupled with his inspiration, even if it has not been cultivated yet, it does not require the scientific research thinking of scientific researchers, but it is enough. If you are strong enough, bricks can fly. If you are strong enough, bricks can fly into the sky. That's perfect, Luther, why haven't I heard your name before? Dr. Brive admired, and then asked puzzledly. "Because I was studying before," Luther said calmly. "Yeah, it's really good." Brive nodded and learned to enrich himself. This is a normal thing. Then Luther became a member of the Universal Capsule Company. Dr. Briff did not squeeze Luther too much. Not only was his salary very high, but his treatment was also very good. Luther could even use the precision instruments in his laboratory at will, as long as the values can be adjusted back without affecting Dr. Brief's own research. This was undoubtedly a good opportunity for Luther to improve his research on Kryptonian genes, so he started studying like crazy. Originally, this kind of thing could be solved by making a wish with Dragon Ball, such as asking for the technology of the entire Dragon Ball world, but Luther didn't want to waste the wish. This is a huge waste of wishes. Naturally, it is better now. With the super brain's learning ability, Luther mastered the universal capsule technology in less than a day, which shocked Dr. Brief like nothing. It took him most of his life to develop the universal capsule technology. Although there were black technologies to create a gravity chamber and develop a spaceship later on, generally speaking, it was not as black as his daughter Bulma. Speaking of Bulma, she accidentally came to her father's research laboratory and discovered that there was a super handsome guy. Brother Luther. Bulma called Luther very ladylike. What is it, Bulma? Luther knew Bulma's true face, so he would not be deceived by her current ladylike appearance. But he doesn't resist building a good relationship with Bulma. Just kidding, this is the real black technology boss. He can even develop a time machine. Although it is a time machine that travels through parallel time and space, it is still outrageous. Brother Luther, are you free today? Why don't we go out and play together? For Bulma, a super sportsman like Luther is simply a killer. No, Bulma, not unless you can help me solve this problem. Luther used the beauty trick, and he didn't feel ashamed at all. Compared with the benefits, selling beauty is nothing. Bulma was still young at this time, but she had already shown her talent, her unreasonable talent in black technology. What subject? Bulma asked immediately. This is it. I have found a substance that can stimulate the human body's potential, but the lethality rate of this substance is too high. I want to improve and optimize it. Luther showed Bulma the super divine water. Is this so? When Bulma heard that it was about biotechnology, she felt unsure. After all, her education was in mechanics. From the fact that Bulma can develop various machinery and repair cars on the road, we can see how hardcore Bulma is and how strong her hands-on ability is. So I'm sorry, Bulma, go and have some fun yourself. Luther touched Bulma's hair. Bulma suddenly softened. After all, she was a woman who could make her daughter go on an adventure alone, just to find the Dragon Ball and wish for a Prince Charming. She even dared to shoot and kill. You know what she was capable of in this regard. How strong is the obsession? At this moment, Bulma had only one idea, and that was to become a useful person to Luther, to make Luther notice her, fall in love with her charm and talent, and then, hey. Looking at Bulma's hurried away figure, Luther shook his head and returned to research. We can't just count on Bulma. If Bulma doesn't work, will he waste his time? Moreover, judging from the fact that Bulma has not solved the problem of fairy bean production for so many years, maybe Bulma is not good at this aspect. Otherwise, it's impossible that Bulma didn't think of cultivating more fairy beans to solve the problem of Z warriors being injured, right? During this time, through research and study, Luther had discovered the properties of super divine water. I don't know how the cat immortal got such a thing, but the effect of the super divine water is too overbearing and too strong for ordinary people to bear. Luther is currently studying the purification, optimization and weakening of super divine water. Optimization and purification are for himself. He doesn't think that the super divine water has stimulated all his potential. Naturally, he wants better super divine water. The weakening is to create a better super soldier compound. At the same time, Luther also mastered the universal capsule technology during this period of study. Dr. Brive didn't know this yet. He was wary of it, but he couldn't resist Luther being too perverted, so he just followed the clues and traced the source to restore and crack it, technical barriers and blockades. Of course, Luther did not say such a thing. He had mastered the universal capsule technology and did not intend to bring it back to the Marvel Universe to develop any universal capsule products. This thing was too high-end and not suitable. He just wanted to see if he could develop a smaller storage device, and then take away as many useful things as possible, such as fairy beans and super divine water. It is best to get the spirit tree fruits through the Dragon Balls. Given the background of the Marvel Universe, it is not difficult to find a living planet to plant the spirit tree fruits. There are so many good things in Dragon Ball, and Luther wants to take them all away. What Luther didn't expect was that Bulma came to him within a few days and asked for 100 milliliters of super divine water for research. Then she confidently took out the finished product and gave it to Luther. What's this? Luther looked at the bright red liquid that looked like blood in the bottle. Brother Luther, this is an optimized drug that I synthesized after analyzing the ingredients of the super divine water. The fatality rate has been reduced by 50%. Bulma said confidently. What's the effect? Luther was very interested. The injected white rats have become super white rats that can even bite through steel bars. Speaking of which, Brother Luther, how did you find such a thing? Bulma asked with great interest. I found it while searching for treasure. Luther has begun working on Bulma's synthesis. Brother Luther, you promised me. Bulma suddenly said to Luther with dissatisfaction. Oh, then where do you want to go to play? Luther could only temporarily seal the compound. Anyway, as long as he coaxed Bulma and asked her to help him, he would probably be able to solve a lot of problems, right? How about we go to an amusement park? Bulma said immediately. Luther had no objection, even if Bulma wanted to go to the haunted house to pretend to be scared, or go to the merry-go-round to get a hug. Without saying a word, Bulma took Luther and set off, driving to an amusement park she knew. This amusement park was actually her family's property. The Universal Capsule Company is an unimaginable giant. The industry is of course not just the factories and stores that produce and sell universal capsules. Luther patiently accompanied Bulma through various activities. Anyway, he was not in a hurry and had plenty of time. Bulma was naturally very satisfied with the game and secretly kissed Luther. Luther has no interest in little girls like Bulma, he likes beautiful older sisters. However, considering the genius Bulma has shown in this area, Luther plans to sacrifice himself and let Bulma study cells and genes. At that time, Bulma may be able to help him solve the problem of Kryptonian genetic limitations, and what Luther wants most. Combine the power of Kryptonians and Saiyans. Although most Saiyans are weak, only Sun Wukong and his few are outstanding, and all of them are air mages, but they are strong enough. The Super Saiyan state of Saiyan monkeys shocked the entire second dimension at the time, and it was known as the most fashionable and legendary form. The Super Saiyan is too powerful for the improvement of strength. Of course, Luther also looks down on ordinary Saiyans. He plans to merge his cells and genes with Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. Broly is not an air mage, but a complete berserker, with a humanoid giant ape body that is not much worse than the body of steel. Sun Wukong fought for so long without breaking his defense, so you can imagine how strong his defense is. You should know that Broly did not know how to use air to attack and defend at the beginning, and he relied entirely on physical combat. More importantly, Broly grew too fast, catching up with Sun Wukong and Vegeta's efforts for so many years in just a few hours. Given a choice, Luther naturally wants the best. Brother Luther, I had a lot of fun today, thank you. Bulma looked like she was full of spring in her eyes, and her cheeks were full of rosy clouds. Today she felt Luther's meticulous care. Although Luther's behavior seemed to treat her as a little sister to be taken care of, Bulma felt that this was a huge improvement. I also have to thank you for helping me solve a problem. Luther said with a smile. He deduced from Bulma's age that she would probably go looking for the Dragon Balls soon, but now because of his appearance, Bulma may no longer have the motivation to find the Dragon Balls. However, Luther knew that there was a Dragon Ball in Bulma's warehouse, and he used his supervision to find the Dragon Ball. Dr. Brief didn't care about Dragon Balls. Maybe someone gave it to him as a gift, and then he threw it into the warehouse casually. Luther studied the Dragon Ball radar by himself, preparing to find the 7 Dragon Balls. After Bulma received Luther's thanks, she seemed to be flying. The next moment, she found that it was not an illusion, but she was really flying. Luther held her hand, and the two flew up regardless of gravity. If Luther hadn't covered Bulma with a biological force field, Bulma would probably have her arm torn off. Instead of this romantic scene that was beyond imagination. We are flying. Bulma widened her eyes, unable to believe what she saw. Yes, Bulma, I am actually a Kryptonian from the destroyed Krypton civilization. Luther talked nonsense seriously. Kryptonian, are you an alien? Bulma was curiously standing on tiptoe to see if there was anything under her feet, but she found nothing. When she heard Luther's words, she was stunned. Alien. I need your help, Bulma. Luther looked at Bulma sincerely. I will help you, brother Luther. Bulma couldn't calm down. Whether it was because of the height, the instinctive fear of heights caused something like the suspension bridge effect, or because she was attracted by Luther's perfect appearance at close range, Bulma felt that the little deer in her heart had now turned into a super invincible flash spiral black hurricane deer. It violently hit her atrium, knocked her head dizzy, and felt dizzy all over. Not to mention, Luther is also an alien. This is a sure kill for the little girl who is now full of fantasies. Luther just thinks that confessing his identity can help Bulma better help him study the genes of Kryptonians, but he doesn't have so many ideas. After all, he can't telepathize. Thank you, Bulma. No, you're welcome. The two returned to Bulma's house soon. Ah, little Bulma, why are you back so late? Mrs. Brief, Bulma's young and beautiful mother, teased her daughter with a sly smile, especially when she saw Luther, who was tall and handsome, with a very outstanding appearance, and had no turtleneck or hunchback, but was very upright, and his whole spirit were very unique. She didn't know that Luther was Brief's assistant. She thought Luther was Bulma's classmate or even boyfriend. I went out to play. Oh, Mom, don't be here, go back quickly, you haven't done your beauty treatment yet. Bulma was so embarrassed by what she said, and quickly pushed Mrs. Brief in. Luther smiled politely at the lady, then turned and left. The next day, Bulma came to the door. She doesn't need to go to school, she is a genius after all, and she can't wait to solve Luther's problems. Luther told Bulma that his problem was genetic. The Kryptonian civilization has achieved a very idealized society, where everyone is born to perform their own duties, and their careers are customized and genetically determined. Although he didn't know whether he was a scientific Kryptonian or a warrior Kryptonian, such limitations existed. Luther now wants to use Bulma to unlock this restriction and see if he can turn himself into a controllable Doomsday. Even if he is not the ancient Doomsday, he is still much stronger than the average Kryptonian. What's more, who says that ordinary Doomsday can't evolve into ancient Doomsday? Bulma was very anxious after learning this. Brother Luther, are you saying that the Kryptonian civilization even produces offspring through instruments, so you can't secrete emotional hormones? This is why Bulma is anxious. If the person she likes cannot secrete emotional hormones, will he still have feelings? In fact, Luther has emotions, but they are limited by his body. His emotions come from memory, so he has a feeling of being scratched, and this feeling is gradually becoming blurred. Kryptonians are prepared to prevent unnecessary emotions from affecting Kryptonians. Fighting Kryptonians do not have emotions such as fear and love. They do not need to reproduce naturally anyway. Not to mention scientific Kryptonians. Well, that's what bothers me, Bulma. Luther nodded. Hearing what Luther said, Bulma made up her mind to help Luther unlock this restriction. Otherwise, how could she be with her Prince Charming? Next, Bulma tried her best to learn about genes, taking courses in cytology and genetics, etc. Luther didn't just rely on the idea of a girl. He was a male chauvinist himself, not a sassy. He felt that Dragon Ball had so many black technologies, maybe there was a way to solve his problem. 1 month later, Bulma looked at the instrument in front of her excitedly. Brother Luther, your genes have successfully unlocked the restrictions. Bulma hurriedly ran to find Luther. I've finished this. Luther smiled and said to Bulma. Bulma felt that Luther's smile seemed more natural now than before. Already done. Bulma originally had the idea of sharing the surprise, but she didn't expect Luther to finish it first. It's said to be a restriction, but it's actually just removing the gene and finding a way to complete it. Luther then expressed his ideas for solving the problem. He secretly competed with Bulma in his mind, feeling that he could not lose to Bulma. He was a Kryptonian, even if he was not a scientific Kryptonian, but the super brain gave him the possibility of challenge. While Bulma was resting, Luther was still researching and studying sleeplessly, and finally solved his genetic problem before Bulma. Then Bulma's idea of solving the problem is not to complete it, but to return the genes to their ancestors, or to trace the genetic information in the genes to their origins. This line of thinking also gave Luther new inspiration. Science is a combination of problem-solving methods from various ideas. It does not mean that there is only one or only one kind. Restoring feelings is only a foundation for Luther, but opening up the restrictions is the most important. At the same time, Luther has not been idle this month. When the genetic problem-solving idea did not succeed, he also did research on the side. Other items. The Dragon Ball radar has been created, but all the Kryptonian genes cultivated have failed, and the imagined Doomsday gene has not been obtained. So Luther planned to find the Dragon Balls first. He remembers the locations of all the Dragon Balls, and even remembers the location of the second Dragon Ball. It can be said that he can make 2 wishes, except that he has to wait for a year. Luther has already decided what his first wish is, which is to send himself to Broly's location and obtain Broly's genes. Using his super speed and supervision, Luther got all the easy-to-obtain Dragon Balls in less than a day. By the way, he also met Little Wukong, but Little Wukong didn't know about his existence. He only knew that his grandfather's beads were lost. To look for beads. Of course, the 2 Dragon Balls in King Pilaf's hand were not easy to obtain. Luther was not as patient and kind as Little Wukong and the others towards King Pilaf, who was always causing trouble, so he killed King Pilaf directly and let them go. 2 of his men left. The Dragon Ball of Turtle Immortal was the last Dragon Ball that Luther went to get, and he restrained his aura. With the biological force field and the Kryptonian's control, the aura is more completely controlled than that of the artificial man. Turtle Immortal was sleeping soundly without realizing it. Luther took off the Dragon Ball he was wearing around his neck, and Turtle Immortal didn't react at all. After Luther got the Dragon Ball, he breathed a sigh of relief. "Come out, Shenlong," Luther called out the dragon. Suddenly, the 7 Dragon Balls glowed, gathered together and flew into the sky. There was lightning and thunder, and the day instantly turned into night. An Oriental-style dragon slowly poked its head out from the black clouds. "Say your wish, no matter what it is, it will come true, but you can only make one." Shenlong looked at Luther and said, "Can you bring the legendary Super Saiyan Broly here?" Luther asked. He didn't want to run that far, and the planet looked very deserted, so even if he wanted to use it, there was nothing he could do. "Sorry, this wish is beyond my ability," Shenron replied emotionlessly. "TCH, can't you even do this?" "Oh, it seems so. Broly's current combat power should be higher than that of Son Goku after defeating Frieza. If he doesn't agree, he won't be able to teleport. The Namek Dragon Balls are much more powerful than the Earth Dragon Balls, but there is no way to send Sun Wukong back without his consent. So, can we just go by ourselves?" Fortunately, he was well prepared. "Then send me to the legendary Super Saiyan Broly." Luther made it clear that he was afraid that Shenlong would randomly find someone named Broly and send him there. "Your wish is simple and has been fulfilled." Shenlong opened his mouth and said, and as Shenlong's words fell, Luther suddenly felt a strong pulling force coming from all directions. This force seemed to have endless energy, tearing apart the space with him in an instant and speeding away in an unknown direction. Luther only felt that everything around him became blurred, and time and space seemed to have lost their meaning. His heart was full of surprise and expectation, not knowing what kind of world he was about to face. However, the strength of this pulling force is not very strong. If Luther wants, he can break free by his own strength. However, he did not do this. He chose to trust Shenlong, believing that it would lead him to the right place. Just when Luther was still thinking about how long this crossing would take, he suddenly felt that the traction on his body disappeared, and then he began to fall from high altitude. The friction in the air caused the surface of Luther's body to glow red, but Luther flew up again in an instant and regained his body's balance. This planet is Broly's planet. Luther's chi perception, supervision, and super hearing were fully activated, and he instantly felt a powerful and violent chi, which completely exceeded any chi he had sensed so far, including Luther's own. Without saying a word, he flew in the direction of the breath, and then saw a child dragging a huge corpse walking. Obviously, this is the new version of Broly. The old version of Broly's style is not like this. The new version of Broly is actually more powerful. The old version of Broly's combat power doubled every year, but the new version of Broly grew exponentially in battle. If you give him a little more time, he might be able to catch up with Super Blue Gogeta and defeat Super Blue Gogeta. There was no movement when Luther appeared. There was a biological force field, and supersonic movement would not cause any physical effects. He was just like a ghost, disappearing and disappearing. Before Brawley could react, he felt pain and felt as if his tail had been pinched hard. Well, Luther was worried that he wouldn't be able to break through the defense, so he directly attacked the Saiyan's weak point, the tail. He grabbed Brawley's tail, then cut it off with his heat vision, and then extracted it from Brawley's tail wound. A large sample of Brawley's blood. Ah, who? Brawley turned around angrily and looked around, but he didn't find anyone. However, his tail was missing, and the pain in his butt told him that this was not his imagination, so the angry Brawley began to bombard the surroundings indiscriminately. Kill the invisible enemy. It's a pity that Luther had already run far away by this time. He not only ran far away, but also used his energy to create a huge underground space for himself, and then hid in the underground space. Luther knew that if he came to Brawley, he would not be able to return to Dragon Ball Earth for a long time, so he brought a lot of universal capsules, which stored a large amount of supplies. The most important thing was, he moved his laboratory here. Then, let's get started. Luther planned not to go back until he researched something. Luther then freed up his lab and began studying Brawley's blood samples and cells as well as the genes carried by his tail. Every day he could hear Brawley making a big noise and Brawley's anger getting stronger and stronger. By the way, Luther doesn't need to sleep at all, so he can research without sleep. If Brawley has no results for the time being, he can turn around and research the Doomsday gene he wants. A two-pronged approach is to cultivate a genetic combination of Saiyans and Kryptonians. Anyway, there was no free time. It was not until the timer hanging on the wall of the laboratory had passed 2 years that Luther achieved great success. Doomsday's genes, Brawley's genes. Luther looked at the 2 test tubes in front of him. The liquid in the first test tube continued to gradually change from black to red, and it looked as if it had been polished. The red liquid in the second test tube was boiling endlessly. The first test tube contained Doomsday's genes. The failed Kryptonian cells finally broke through the limits and Doomsday appeared. The famous Doomsday has the power to destroy heaven and earth, jumping power as fast as flying, infinite physical energy that never feels tired, and super fast healing and regeneration abilities. During the battle, you can continuously evolve to restrain your opponents based on their abilities and characteristics, adapt to all environments and all enemies, resurrect after being killed, and evolve ways to deal with them, so you cannot kill Doomsday twice with the same method. Due to a manufacturing problem, it went berserk, unable to distinguish between friend and foe, and became a never-ending killing machine. The origin setting of Doomsday has changed too many times. Luther doesn't know which version of Krypton he is, so he doesn't know which version of Doomsday will come out. Fortunately, only a part of the cells were used for cultivation, otherwise I would have died first if I had produced a Doomsday. Luther looked at the 2 test tubes in front of him, and they failed at the point of fusion. Neither the Doomsday gene nor the Brawley gene could coexist. The 2 genes attacked each other crazily. Luther failed tens of thousands of times. Even after consuming all the prepared resources, there was no way for them to fuse. So now Luther only has one choice. Either fuse the Doomsday gene and become a Doomsday Kryptonian. I don't know whether it can succeed. The success rate is only 50%. If it fails, it will directly mutate into Doomsday. It's okay to turn into a monster, but it may be controlled by the violent instinct of Doomsday's consciousness and lose yourself, which is no different from death. Either fuse Brawley and become the first fusion of Kryptonian and Saiyan in the history of the entire dimension. The advantage is that the fusion success rate is very high, more than 70%, and the fusion is Brawley, the legendary Super Saiyan. The growth and potential are guaranteed. Even if the fusion fails, he will not die or lose himself. The legendary Super Saiyan, or the Doomsday? Luther couldn't decide for a long time. He paced back and forth, and another month passed. Then Luther decided to give it a try. The legendary Super Saiyan, I can look for the Super Dragon Ball in the future, and it may be able to fulfill my wish, but the day of destruction, that is the day of destruction. Luther picked up the test tube of the Doomsday gene. There is no way out for ordinary Kryptonians, so he will no longer be an ordinary Kryptonian. Luther inserted the test tube into the only soft part of his mouth. Even though he had dispelled the biological force field, the defense of the Man of Steel still caused the needle to deform and crush. Fortunately, Luthor used supersonic acceleration to push the needle. When the needle burst, he also made a minor wound in his mouth. You must know that this needle is made of the hardest earth alloy in the Dragon Ball world. After successfully injecting the Doomsday gene into his body, Luthor felt the tearing pain all over his body. The cells were instantly eroded by the Doomsday gene. Because they were originally cultured from Luthor's own cells, they fused very quickly and did not trigger a crazy counterattack by the immune system. But then, Luthor felt endless power pouring out of the torn cells. After being torn apart, Doomsday's cells quickly regenerate and become stronger than before, becoming extremely resistant to the forces that previously ripped apart his cells. Hardened biomass began to appear on the surface of Luthor's body, which caused him to begin to transform into a ferocious monster. However, Luthor remained calm and began to intervene using his super brain and biological force field. From a certain perspective, the biological force field is a universal field that can modify reality and subvert the rules of physics. Many of the outrageous operations of the Kryptonians are actually the effects of the biological force field, such as dragging several planets. The super brain is responsible for the most delicate and precise operations, targeting the destruction of sun cells. Luthor was even prepared to use the terrifying squeeze of travel to crush himself if the situation got out of control. But surprisingly smoothly, after the super brain and biological force field were added to control, Doomsday's cells did not go out of control, but became part of his body. A lot of rancid filth fell off Luthor's body. These were actually cells in Luthor's body. They were eliminated and devoured nutrients by the Doomsday cells, and finally metabolism eliminated them all. When Luthor stood up again, the muscles in his whole body were like steel, and his height had also increased to more than 1.9 meters. But it's not too strong or bloated, and you won't be able to touch your back. Destroy the Kryptonians. Luthor felt the power in his body, which was surging and felt like a steady stream of endless power. This made Luthor want to find someone to test his current power. I don't know, how much power of the Doomsday can I exert now? Luthor thought about this problem. The most powerful thing about Doomsday is naturally his ability to adapt to super adaptive evolution. He can adapt in seconds. Even if Darkseid can kill most of the Omega rays in existence, Doomsday can be killed once and quickly recover. Evolution ignores. I don't say that there is not much difference with this, at least it can't be too far away, and this is not the performance of the complete Doomsday. The complete Doomsday can passively release Doomsday spores to devour all life around it, and can also be reborn through the body. Even Superman can only last for 10 minutes before being infected into Doomsday Superman. He wanted to go to Brawley and give it a try, but Luthor was afraid of being beaten to death by Brawley. The Day of Destruction Kryptonians are not the real Day of Destruction after all, and Luthor does not have the confidence to ignore everything. With the biological force field and Superman's various abilities, Doomsday is more than enough to protect himself. Luthor took a deep breath and activated the time travel. He placed the universal capsule with his heart. Then this time, Luthor didn't feel much pressure, and the passage seemed to be much wider. If it could only accommodate one wire before, it is now about the size of a forearm. Although he was still stretched into dough, Luthor returned to the Marvel Universe. This time he did not rely on sunlight. Instead, Doomsday's cells quickly recovered after being torn. More powerful power surged out, making Luthor feel uncomfortable all over, trying to vent this world-destroying power, strength. He has become stronger again, at least several times stronger, and his recovery ability is also very good. He looks similar to Wolverine, but he is stronger. Especially the fact that he didn't need to rely on sunlight made Luthor even more satisfied. Kryptonians are almost immortal if they have sunlight, and Doomsday can be immortal without sunlight. Adding the two together, as long as he is under the sun, Luthor can probably be comparable to the incomplete Doomsday, right? But, does the size of the passage also change? Why? Luthor thought about another question, and at the same time confirmed the time of his departure from the Marvel Universe through the super brain. After being gone for so long, only a second had passed here. Fortunately, he was worried that such a long time had also passed here. In that case, the Emperor Company might not even exist. It is also possible that the Emperor Company is still there, but it has been occupied by the Magpie's Nest. Although Luther didn't care, after all, compound number 1 was already a product of elimination. Returning to the Imperial building, Luther thought about several possibilities for time travel. The first is that the size of the passage is related to its own strength. The stronger the energy stored for crossing, the wider the passage will be. He went to the Dragon Ball world, and the energy in his body were much stronger than before. In addition, every time he traveled through the body, the energy was exhausted, so there was a possibility. The second possibility is, it has something to do with the world traveled through. The different worlds you travel through determine the size of the passage. We don't know what the possibility is yet. Luther plans to try to return to the Dragon Ball world later and see if he can return to the Earth of the Dragon Ball world. If not, then he can only study the universe at Marvel first, spaceship, and then went to the Earth through the spaceship. I don't know how far the Dragon Balls can pull me, or how long it will take to fly back. But he must go back to Earth, otherwise wouldn't it be in vain? Also, try to travel through new worlds to increase my variables. What Luther pursues is to become stronger. He has no idea of living a comfortable life. He has traveled through time, changed his destiny against the will of heaven, and gained the ability of a Kryptonian. He does not pursue the strongest power, the most beautiful woman, and the highest enjoyment. Then didn't he travel through time in vain? The Imperial Company was established for this purpose, but Luther couldn't calm down and enjoy it before. Now that he has become a Kryptonian on the day of destruction, Luther has relaxed a lot. Brought back successfully, Luther spit out a bunch of universal capsules. These are more advanced universal capsules developed by himself. They are the same size as real capsules and are very easy to carry. Luther originally planned to just try it, but he did not expect that the passage became wider, so he brought them all over. Let's study first to see if we can create a universal capsule in this world. Luther wrapped them with a biological force field to protect them. These universal capsules are clean. Luther is not surprised that the Marvel world does not have materials from the Dragon Ball world, but he can still find a replacement, because the most important thing about the universal capsule is not the material, but the microscopic particle rearrangement technology. This is a complete black technology. Without this microparticle adjustment technology, the universal capsule would not be possible. Successful. Maybe it's because the Marvel world has a higher acceptance limit. Luther successfully recreated the omnipotent capsule in the Marvel world. It felt very smooth and incredible. So Luther immediately guessed that it was likely that Marvel had too many black technologies, and the Marvel Universe's ability to accept more was also increasing. The black technology of the universal capsule is actually nothing, and the PIM particles are even more exaggerated. This is actually a good thing for me. In this case, if I can go back to the Earth of Dragon Ball, I can directly obtain artificial human technology. Luther was a little excited. There is no need to think about the gold content of artificial human technology. An infinite energy furnace alone is a gadget with the highest level of black technology. Moreover, the output of this gadget is very high. According to the standard, even Super Saiyan 1 cannot beat it. I'm afraid it's not the kind that can destroy the solar system with its energy output in an instant. Although he might not have researched such a powerful thing when he went to see Dr. Grow now, the ideas could be used as a reference. But he still has a lot to do. The next step is to study super divine water and fairy beans. Sun Wukong and the others have never thought about solving the problem of cultivating fairy beans, nor have they thought about extracting the ingredients of fairy beans for synthesis, testing, purification, etc., which makes Luther feel that they are completely wasting natural resources. Think about it carefully. If this thing can really be purified or synthesized, how powerful would it be? You must know that the back of the fairy beans is very useful to the strong ones at the cosmic level. The same is true for the research on super divine water. Luther is not sure whether its purification and synthesis can help him develop his potential for the second time, but it is always right to try. Boss. Michelle pushed open the door of the laboratory. After some chemical disinfection, she saw Luther. He seemed to be studying something intently. Compound number 1 alone is enough for them to make a lot of money, and it is a steady stream. After all, human beings have always been pursuing to surpass their own kind and become supermen. It is said that there is still a hot topic of discussion, that is, whether people who have been injected with compound number 1 can participate in various sports competitions. Most sane people feel that it cannot be done because it is unfair. That is twice the physical function. The better the physical fitness is, the stronger it will be after the injection. The gap is too big. It is estimated that after you inject any heavyweight boxing champion, you can easily defeat Ali and Tyson in their prime. There are also irrational people who think that since there is a competition to determine the best, then of course these people should be allowed to participate, because they are human beings too. There are also those who are obviously sensible but pretend to be irrational, intending to provoke conflicts and gain benefits. For example, can a person injected with compound number 1 still be considered a human being? Luther has actually calculated this kind of thing through his super brain. With the emergence of strong men, weak humans will be eliminated and extinct. At this time, they will not be willing to accept it, but will fall into a self-designed competition. At that time, various social problems will arise, such as the way out and future for ordinary people who cannot compete. After all, ordinary people will definitely still make up the majority, and the social structure is expected to undergo huge changes as a result. To put it simply, even when there is no actual physical difference, there is still a racial surname system, a blood aristocracy system, a superior and inferior system, let alone a situation where there is such an obvious physical difference. These topics have even led to many people protesting and demonstrating, sitting at the gate of Emperor Company, demanding that Emperor Company provide compound number 1 to everyone for free. They believe that Emperor Company has an obligation to help all mankind become new humans. Luther's solution to this problem is simple, that is, to launch a new human gene editing loan. Since there are car loans and housing loans, why can't there be an enhanced loan? It is true that compound number 1 can only be obtained by those with money and power. Judging from the market prospects, there is still a lot of room for it. When it is almost saturated, it will be time to take advantage of the poor. By then, mass production plus price reduction will be inevitable. After all, the powerful people are saturated. They have all been injected with the number 1 compound per capita. Will there be a second injection? There is no additive effect. And Luther believes that it is possible to simultaneously monetize the rich and the poor, just like the famous Apple mobile phone. In the 4th generation, some people cut their kidneys and sold them to buy it, but what is the value of the 4th generation Apple now? In addition, isn't America a place where the awareness of early consumption is prevalent? Luther feels that doing so has actually helped a lot of people. This is charity. Luther is kind-hearted and enthusiastic about charity. If you pay in installments and apply for a body enhancement loan from the Bank of the Imperial Company, you can get a 20% discount. The merits are immeasurable. After all, when the Chitauri invade in the future, they may face enhanced humans. Luther felt that he was at a disadvantage because he was in the Marvel universe where there was no such thing as merit. If he had saved so many people in a city in prehistoric and journeyed to the West, wouldn't he have been given the golden light of merit? Loans are the most powerful means of capitalists. Even if there is a 20% discount, if you don't get several times the profit, what kind of capitalist is that? All loans are for the purpose of getting every penny back, and even making several times the profit from the interest. The Emperor Company has its own bank. Luther had already ordered the acquisition of the bank before, with the purpose of launching this human body enhancement loan. As long as they are burdened with this loan, most of the middle and low-level and middle and high-level people will work for the Emperor Company no matter how long they can live in the future. You said you want to escape abroad and default. Then you underestimate the ability of the Emperor's security. The mercenaries Luther found are not eating for free. Even if you run to the African natives, you can bring them back, and then you don't need to pay back the loan. You can make a lot of money by dismantling the whole person. After all, you are already a superhuman at that time. The kidneys of superhumans, a powerful power source, are sold for tens of millions of US dollars, right? Isn't this a quick return on investment? What's up, Michelle? Luther actually knew Michelle was coming. Even if his super hearing and supervision were turned off, he still had the sense of chi. Boss, tomorrow is the press conference, Michelle said, and handed the prepared documents to Luther. Oh, that's right. Luther remembered it, mainly because his mind was full of super divine water, magic beans and various scientific research projects. If it wasn't necessary to do such a small thing, Luther would be too lazy to go. This press conference was the first time that Emperor Company had appeared in public since its establishment. By the way, it announced the development route and projects of Emperor Company, and launched the human enhancement loan business launched by Emperor Bank, in preparation for the next stage of harvesting leaks. At the same time, Luther also planned to launch a powerful counterattack against those guys who tried to provide free human enhancement for all people. Introducing the trial version of Superman medicine. $10,000 a pill. After taking it, you will become a superhuman in an hour, with twice the body functions. In Luther's opinion, the market profit and value of this thing may be more terrifying than compound no. 1. After all, not everyone can afford a shot of $10 million, but at $10,000 a shot, many people will bite their teeth and buy it. After experiencing the feeling of being superhuman, they will become addicted, which is inevitable. At that time, Luther will only worry about whether the production speed of the factory acquired by the Emperor Company can keep up with the sales. The abuse of superhuman drugs will definitely happen, and it is hard to say that countries such as America will not be interested in superhuman drugs. $10,000 can temporarily create a superhuman for 1 hour, and $10 million can create 1,000 temporary superhumans. If this is used to fight a war, there is no need to worry about not being able to recover $10 million in profit from the soldiers. After all, American soldiers will retire, and you can't recover $10 million from the other party after retirement, right? The emergence of superhuman drugs undoubtedly solved this problem. The next day, Luther held a press conference in the building of the Emperor Company. The first appearance of the Emperor Company boss undoubtedly attracted the attention of all newspapers and news agencies. After all, Luther was too mysterious, and the products of the Emperor Company were too high-end and beyond imagination. After a period of fermentation, the popularity of Emperor Company is now ranked in the top 10 in the world. The first press conference naturally attracted countless reporters from all over the world. Michelle knows this very well. She released the news in advance, so influential news media from all over the world came to participate. In the end, only the 100 most influential news media were qualified to enter the Emperor building. The others could only wait outside for the news that was behind the times. Luther looked at the reporters who kept quiet in front of him and all kinds of long guns and short guns. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Emperor Company. I am the founder and CEO of Emperor Company, and also a researcher. The simple introduction of his identity caused a sensation and various flashes. Luther smiled in the face of various flashes. This is our company's EVP, Ms. Michelle J. Dina. Then Luther introduced Michelle next to him, who is the executive vice president and his secretary. Mr. Luther, what are your company's future plans? Mr. Luther, please tell me. The reporters started asking questions immediately. Michelle beside Luther asked people to maintain order. This was a live broadcast, and the mess was not good for the image of Emperor Company. Luther randomly selected several media reporters who had the most appropriate questions to answer. When he mentioned the human enhancement loan business and superhuman medicine of Emperor Bank, it really set off the whole audience again. The reporters did not expect such big news. They thought that Emperor Company, as a technology company at the forefront of human enhancement technology, would say that the development route was to create better and more advanced product technology like other technology companies. Mr. Luther, may I ask why Emperor Company launches human enhancement loans? Mr. Luther, is your plan to launch a superhuman drug a response to the current doubts and criticisms of Imperial Company? Mr. Luther, may I ask what the Emperor Company's next plan is? Will it continue to develop more advanced human enhancement technology? The reporters asked Luther frantically. They felt that this thing was big news. Human body enhancement loan business or something. There are also Superman drugs. Does this mean they will soon be able to see Superman in their daily lives? Even they themselves can experience the feeling of being a Superman. It's only $10,000, and they can still pay it out with gritted teeth. Mr. Luther, aren't you afraid that your superhuman drug will bring unrest and danger to society? What if criminals buy the superhuman drug and rob banks and passers-by? You are endangering public safety. Then one reporter asked a very pointed question that silenced the other reporters. After all, this is another explosive point, but why didn't they think of it just now? Of course, even if you think about it, there have been no problems in the development of Emperor Company so far. Fools all know that its background is very deep, but they are not so courageous to ask. Oh, it's America's media, so that's okay. That's a good question. Luther looked at the reporter with a smile and said, regarding this issue, I think we should explain about Superman medicine. First of all, people with criminal records cannot buy Superman medicine. Superman medicine will not be distributed to major pharmacies. It will only be opened in Emperor Company sales and specialty stores. It's not even a drug, it's just a self-defense prop like pepper spray. Luther continued, police spray. Mr. Luther, are you saying that a drug that can knock people flying after being eaten is a harmless and effective self-defense tool like pepper spray? And I don't think anyone would spend $10,000. Buy a bottle of pepper spray. Another reporter continued. So, it's just similar. Luther said with a smile. It is a more efficient anti-wolf spray and stun device. I think everyone in real life has experienced being robbed with a gun. America's situation is well known, so there is no need to emphasize that this is not possible, even if everyone living in affluent areas may be affected. Luther's words stopped a reporter who wanted to say something. We can't expect Mr. Police Officer to appear like lightning and rescue us like Superman in the comics, so what can we do? I'm sorry, sir, this is my wallet. Please don't take away my driver's license and other important documents. Luther performed a normal response to a robbery, which made a few reporters laugh, but more people felt the same way. Otherwise, what else can you do when faced with a gun? This is good, but if it's not good, like being shot, or meeting a gay, or even a lecherous robber, we can only swallow our anger, obey, and compromise. Then, at this time, will you also have I thought about it? I can knock the opponent away with one punch, and I can easily subdue him before he shoots, so as to avoid financial losses and protect my personal safety. Luther picked up a small box that was very beautifully packaged. Superman medicine is the best way to prevent this from happening. I would like to call it a form of personal insurance. Luther pressed the button on the box, and the box opened immediately, revealing a plain-looking black and white capsule inside. The operation is simple and convenient, and it will take effect immediately after taking it. As for the issue of too late, I think the time to take the medicine will always be faster than the time to take out the anti-wolf spray and stun device from the bag. That's also true. Faster than taking out your wallet. Luther laughed. Then most of the reporters immediately applauded. There was no way. They were all involved in self-defense, and it sounded like they didn't intend to involve the medical system. They had no choice but to go along with it before they had any dirty information about the Imperial Company. Besides, there were quite a few people who were convinced by Luther. After the press conference, the news about Emperor Company was immediately promoted overwhelmingly. Major newspapers and even TV news were like jackals that had smelled food, and they all chose to ride on Emperor Company's popularity. They found various sociology experts, biology experts, pharmacology experts, and other people who seemed to be unclear and formidable to analyze from various angles what impact Emperor Company's superhuman medicine and human body enhancement technology would have on this society and even the world. What impact will it bring? The good and bad are mixed, and it's more the competitors that set the pace here. However, this could not stop Emperor Company's superhuman medicine from selling like hot cakes. The price of $10,000 was stuck at a price that was neither above nor below. Even the town talisman has discussed with the Imperial Company the issue of including the police department's superhuman drugs in medical insurance. Sir, you have made it clear that you can buy Superman medicine without a criminal record. What if criminals also have Superman medicine in the future? Michelle followed Luther and asked cautiously. In Michelle's view, Luther spoke too absolutely, and he should not have spoken so confidently. It should be said that Emperor Company will try its best to prevent such things from happening, so that Emperor Company's public relations department can do its work. What does this have to do with us? Luther said with a smile. But, didn't we say? Michelle couldn't understand. After all, she had just graduated and had not yet learned the shamelessness of capitalists and the ability of big companies to talk, confuse right and wrong, and mess around. Yes, we said it, but there are accidents in the world, my little sweetheart. For example, a customer bought Superman medicine from our store, and then accidentally dropped one and it was picked up by a criminal. Or maybe he didn't have time to take the medicine and was robbed by criminals. Luther guided Michelle's thoughts, or opened up her thinking and ideas. If the most important person under his command doesn't even know these things, he will have a big headache. Although, he still has artificial intelligence Megatron to help him. Megatron operates with Luther's authority, so he has greater authority than Michelle. The entire Imperial company strictly manages employees by levels. Without corresponding authority, you are not qualified to enter higher or underground floors. There are 5 elevators inside the Imperial Company building and 2 employee elevators, which can only stop on the 1st floor and go up to the 5th floor. 2 high-end elevators can go up to the 5th floor and below the 50th floor. There was only 1 elevator left to go up to the 50th floor, which was full of Luther's private residence and research laboratory. The underground floors are another secret passage, which is only available above the 50th floor. It goes all the way to the underground. There is no elevator or stairs. Except for Luther who can fly, everyone else will be thrown to death. Michelle is monitored by Megatron on a daily basis. Luther says that Michelle is very important, but in fact he will still take precautions to prevent Michelle from doing anything sorry for him. This is the second in command of a super company with an asset valuation of over $100 billion. Not anyone can resist the temptation, and Luther does not believe in the so-called human nature at all. Human nature cannot stand the test. The electronic products Michelle carries and the electronic products around her are tools for Megatron to monitor her. There are also dust-sized flying robots that Luther built out of boredom to serve as eyes and eyes for Megatron. A tool for gathering information and intelligence. Megatron used some of the robots to monitor Michelle, and the rest monitored the entire Imperial Corporation building. Being called sweetheart by Luther, Michelle's ears turned red and she soon returned to normal. But, will they admit this kind of thing? Michelle didn't think those civilians would agree with this statement. Otherwise, it has nothing to do with us whether they admit it or not. Nothing in the world is absolutely accident-free. This explanation is enough. If they don't admit it, they don't have to buy the Superman medicine. Luther shook his head. Then wouldn't we lose a lot of consumers? This is the first time for Michelle to stand from the perspective of such a high-end seller. She feels that Luther's attitude will cost many consumers. No, it will stimulate more people to buy superhuman drugs. Luther raised the corners of his mouth and patiently explained to Michelle. You mean, the fear and uneasiness caused by supercriminals? After all, Michelle is an elite from a higher education institution, not a nerd. She just couldn't keep up with her thinking before, but now she can catch up. That's right, think about it. Criminals all have superhuman drugs. What will happen to this society? Can the police officer be trusted? Can he protect himself? Don't forget, Michelle, Amelie is a country where the civilian gun ownership rate is around 47%, and almost half of the people have their own weapons. Luther nodded, finally enlightened. If he really hadn't realized it yet, Luther would have suspected that his secretary's diploma was fake. Superman medicine is like a new firearm. Of course, I personally don't want such an accident. Michelle didn't know whether she should believe what Luther said. Are capitalists really so kind? Knowing that there would be a bigger market, it was hard for Michelle to say whether she could control herself when faced with such temptation. Looking at Michelle's expression, Luther shook his head, young. Say one thing, do another, show another, and do another without knowing the operation. Of course Luther had to do a good job on the outside, but as for what it was like on the inside, would he still open it and show it to others? I understand, boss. Michelle didn't know whether she really understood or just pretended to understand, but Luther did not continue to preach. The more people who preach that superhuman drugs will bring disaster to society and end the world, the better. Isn't this the way the strategist works? Of course, there are still some differences, but Luther is looking forward to the butterfly effect that the emergence of his Superman drug and number 1 compound will bring to Marvel. The unchanging Marvel is boring. He has become Doomsday Superman, so what is there to be afraid of? Thanos can slap him twice when he comes. That's why Luther was so generous in giving Superman medicine, something that was obviously cheaper and more suitable than compound number 1. Chaos is the ladder of promotion, but stability is what the rich 7th generation pursues. No chaebol is a fool. They pursue stability, money and interests. Chaos is good for them, but chaos is not good for them. Especially the unprecedented human enhancement technology that has no reference data before. Captain America is nothing, he is just a super soldier, but now there may be thousands of superhumans. How should they deal with it? In the face of this unprecedented change, the pursuit of stability has become their primary goal. Of course, it is not ruled out that some extreme lunatics will want to make trouble. So, in this case, the Superman drug is very consistent with their ideas and needs. I am a superhuman when I need it, and an ordinary person when I don't need it. In this way, the power they have at hand is still useful for suppression. As for compound number 1, of course, it is to slowly cultivate the power at hand. They will not be as stupid as a certain person, who is afraid of a weapon like a musket and does not use it. The emergence of the Superman drug not only did not affect the order of compound number 1, but the sales of compound number 1 and Superman drug increased significantly. Tony Stark claimed that he definitely didn't take the Superman drug from Emperor Company to beat up 10 cover models the night before yesterday. Luthor saw some interesting news. This guy is really good at playing. Luthor really didn't expect that there would be people who would take Superman drugs to fight, but it was impossible to beat up 10 cover models in an hour after taking Superman drugs, so how much did he take? Tony Stark swore that he didn't take drugs, and the reporters' reports were all slander and jealousy. Then Tony Stark said that he would not rule out the use of legal means to protect his rights. A typical case of a dead duck mouthing hard. But Luthor thought this news was good, and men knew what was going on. Moreover, with Tony Stark's live advertisement that was trying to cover up the truth, most men would probably smile knowingly and quickly place an order for Superman drugs. So, Luthor thought about it, and in order to express his gratitude, he did not expose the consumption record of Tony Stark's bodyguard happy buying Superman drugs, but only invited the most charming male movie star in Hollywood to shoot an advertisement. Superman drugs, let you regain the confidence of a real man. After taking the Superman drugs, the male star conducted a series of physical training to show his strength, and then the cameraman knew how to accidentally pass through the male star's lower body. Finally, the male star lay in the middle of the 10 cover models, hugging them left and right, showing a smile of enjoyment. It seems that nothing has been said, but it seems that everything has been said. The most interesting thing is that these 10 cover models are the 10 cover models that Tony Stark broke the news about. For a while, the media exploded and fell into a carnival. They didn't expect Luthor to do this. The only regret they had was that the boss of the Emperor Company did not come on stage in person. Otherwise, this topic would be more shocking. But they thought too much. How could Luthor go on stage in person? He is not Clark. He can do something to Lois. They are not two different species. It is okay without supervision. Once supervision is turned on, it is terrible. What's more, the memory of Superbrain is photographic. He can even recall the bedwetting when he was 1 year old, so it is even worse. After Luthor appeared at the press conference, his popularity exploded. He was called the most charming man in America, although he is not an American citizen. Young, handsome, rich, single, genius. Almost the same personality as Tony Stark, the difference is that he is young, tall, and strong. A proper handsome man, not a playboy. Until now, there has been no scandal about Luthor. It is normal that he will be pursued by most American women. This made Tony Stark very unhappy, because he felt that all his limelight was stolen by Luthor. Happy's original intention of buying the Superman drug was probably just to better protect Tony at critical moments, but using the Superman drug as aphrodisiac was Tony's own idea. He didn't expect Luthor to be so unconventional, and he used this to advertise something that everyone knew. This made Tony Stark even more upset. At this time, Tony Stark could be said to be arrogant. Most of the villains were provoked by his own foul mouth and arrogance, and it was also the most difficult time to get along with him. So Luthor naturally wouldn't spoil him. Why should I spoil you? Not to mention, he has been busy recently. Not only the town symbol, but also the police departments and even the military, the National Guard, etc. in many states of America came to the Emperor Company to discuss cooperation, even the medical insurance system that Luthor originally didn't intend to intervene in, that is, the well-known medical field in America. The other party actually sent people to discuss cooperation. The huge profits and market of Superman drug, plus the fact that the Emperor Company did not make any moves during the several times they attacked it, and the people who attacked it mysteriously disappeared, they asked experts such as the CIA and FBI to investigate. But no clues were found. It was done too cleanly, beyond imagination, which made them judge that there was a lot of water behind the Emperor Company. Since there is no way to kill you and take your technology, and they are reluctant to give up the huge profits and market of Superman drug, then of course they will cooperate. The consortium is nothing more than for money. Luthor didn't have the whole, I was bitten by you, so I have to kill you dogs, I have to retaliate against you, and kill you. He is not such a superficial person, can't he wait for the Chitauri to invade and guide the Chitauri? What does it have to do with him to die at the hands of aliens? He can't retaliate against him, right? Besides, even if he can't wait that long, Luthor can still plan a super-powered terrorist attack. By then, the dead will be big figures like the consortium chables, and the masters will not panic, and then the Superman drug and compound number 1 will be sold in large quantities again. Luthor has already thought clearly about the positioning of the Imperial Company, which is security and strategic consultant. They will use compound number 1 and Superman drug to create a group of soldiers, sign a lifetime contract with these soldiers, and let them fight for the Imperial Company. Similar to Blackwater, but unprecedented super mercenaries. However, I heard that security companies like Blackwater have begun to realize the market impact that Superman drugs and compound No. the 1st of May bring, and Michelle has received their orders. Of course, they are definitely not as competitive as the Emperor Company. The Emperor Company will launch various conventional security affairs and security services, targeting bioterrorism and super-powered terrorism, etc. Think about it, one is a company that packages original goods, and the other is a company that buys other people's products and then packages them. Even if it is professional, which one would you choose? Just like Nokia, this competitiveness is simply incomparable. Nokia did nothing wrong, but it became too slow, and it is completely incomparable. Alas, there are fewer and fewer people. It's time to conduct artificial human experiments or clone research. The sales of Luthor's Superman drug and compound number 1 have increased hundreds of times, and even his group of scientific researchers who work day and night until they die probably can't complete these orders. There is a lack of manpower, and Luthor doesn't want the Superman drug and compound number 1 to be cracked and spread out. So it is very troublesome to train trustworthy personnel. Although he taught himself hypnosis and relied on the ability of Kryptonians to turn hypnosis into super hypnosis, it is also very troublesome to hypnotize so many people at one time. Of course, there are other solutions, such as asking those bigwigs who were hypnotized by him to arrange some people for him. Boss. Michelle came in with a beautiful girl with burgundy hair. Luthor's eyes fell on the girl with burgundy hair. Luthor's perspective eyes made it easy for him to see through the other person's workplace OL uniform. Her physical strength was much stronger than Michelle's, and she was not an ordinary person. Oh, no uterus. Luthor looked strange, and immediately knew the other person's identity. Who is she? But even though he knew, Luthor still pretended not to know and asked. Boss, she is your assistant, Natalie. Michelle has been so busy recently that she only sleeps 4 hours a day. There is no way. Luthor doesn't care about things and is immersed in the research room. Michelle is the second in command of the Imperial Company. Various orders, business orders, medical insurance systems, and even cross-border trade are all piled up. In this case, Michelle really doesn't have the energy to take on the position of Luthor's assistant secretary, so she can only find someone who can help her share the burden through recruitment. As for whether this would push the boss to another woman, Michelle was very confident. After all, she was younger than this Ms. Natalie, and she was more beautiful and tall. Considering that Luthor had been too lazy to do anything to her for such a long time, Michelle probably didn't need to worry that her boss would take the initiative to do anything to Natalie. If Natalie wanted to take the initiative to do something, she would know it by referring to her previous experience. In addition, because of the development of the business of the Imperial Company, Michelle met Ms. Pepper of Stark Industries, and after understanding the relationship between the other party and the great genius and playboy Tony Stark, Michelle suddenly got it. Since she couldn't take the initiative to make Luthor have ideas about her, it would be better to become a woman that Luthor couldn't leave. Unfortunately, She didn't know that she was just a growth observation object used by Luther to learn how to manage for Megatron. Luther never put all his eggs in one basket, not to mention such an important position as the executive vice president. If Michelle had any accidents, would the Imperial Company be paralyzed? Luther is too lazy to handle so many things by himself. Even if he has a super brain, the processing speed is definitely tens of thousands of times faster than Michelle. However, as the saying goes, no one is born to like working. Being able to eat and drink without moving is the ultimate pursuit of everyone. What's more, for money, something that has no meaning to him now becomes a super worker. I'm afraid there is something wrong with his super brain. So in order to prevent this from happening, Megatron must learn how to manage. It is a strong artificial intelligence, and the speed and efficiency of learning are very fast. Even Megatron can find loopholes and shortcomings that Michelle herself has not discovered. Even if Michelle has done well, it is still far behind the strong artificial intelligence. Natalie, are you applying for the position of senior vice president? Luther nodded, and Natalie observed Luther. Hello, sir. Natalie is the Black Widow Natasha Romanoff. Her mission is to sneak into the Monarch Company. Nick Fury asked her to investigate Luther and collect the black material of the Monarch Company. Of course, Black Widow has more than one goal in this mission. After all, she is too capable and powerful. She is Nick Fury's trump card, so the more capable she is, the more work she can do. She needs to observe Luther, a genius who lives in seclusion and doesn't like to show up, closely and carefully. Nick Fury has no way to recruit and question Luther, and his short appearance on TV news can't let psychologists and analysis teams conduct much useful intelligence analysis on him. This stuff requires a lot of data and information to establish a thinking model. Black Widow is now playing the role of such an observer, collecting various details of Luther in daily life, and then analyzing and evaluating Luther's personality and psychology. In order to prevent accidents, the cameras carried by Black Widow are not connected to the internet. Anyway, the recordings help her to study and analyze Luther repeatedly, and can also be handed over to the intelligence personnel and psychologists of S.H.I.E.L.D. for analysis. I just looked at your information. You have been a model and can speak multiple languages. How do you say lurking in Russian? Then Luther suddenly said something that seemed irrelevant. Black Widow's expression did not change at all. Even her pupils, which are the most reflective of a person's inner feelings, did not change at all. She answered Luther's question in Russian calmly. This was not over yet, because Luther then spoke to her in Russian. Black Widow found that Luther's Russian was very fluent, and he also had accents from various places, which almost made her unable to keep up. Then Luther switched to various languages. Even small places such as Egyptian, a language that has been passed down from a certain tribe in Africa, and the devilish Wenzhou dialect of the Celestial Empire were all there. The latter Black Widow could not understand at all. It made Luther a little regretful. He still wanted to see Black Widow speaking Wenzhou dialect. After all, even the male protagonist in Endless could not speak Chinese. Black Widow had a new understanding of Luther's genius, and Luther's personality showed that he was not a person who easily believed in others, and he was very confident. Very good, Natalie, you passed. Luther and Black Widow's series of show-off conversations in multiple languages stunned Michelle. Michelle was already an elite who graduated from a higher education institution and was confident that she could crush a large number of people, but in this regard, she could only say that she could barely speak authentic London accent and American English. Thank you very much, Mr. Luther. Black Widow smiled and said. This was her habitual means of testing to see what kind of person her target was. It is impossible for a man to be a gentleman. Even if he disguised himself well, Black Widow could observe some clues and traces. As a result, she found that Luther really seemed to have no idea about her. His eyes were very calm and he did not stay on the parts of her body that attracted attention. Then, you will be responsible for part of the work in the future. Luther continued. I have arranged it, Michelle said hurriedly. If Luther arranged it, he might have to share her duties. Now Michelle has many part-time jobs. Michelle can't hold part-time jobs except for the position of Chief Technology Officer, which is Luther's own. Basically, she holds the position part-time. So it's normal for her to be extremely busy. Luther doesn't intend to tire her. A good boss must be considerate of his employees. Therefore, Luther did not agree with what Michelle said and what she had arranged. Anyway, there are only 3 of them now. Luther does not need to maintain Michelle's authority in front of his subordinates, and directly puts Black Widow in charge of several important positions. Just kidding, it's rare to find a powerful agent, so why don't you use her to your death? Those who are able work hard. With Black Widow's physical ability, 7,118 should be fine, right? If she had any objections, Luther would give her a high salary, and naturally she would have no objections. Michelle was a little shocked. Luther ignored her arrangement and directly let the Black Widow take away many of her positions and rights. Black Widow was not polite to her. What she needed was to collect any unfavorable illegal transactions and black materials in Emperor Company, and to maintain close contact with Luther every day, so that she could collect his information and details. Of course, she would not scheming with Michelle or anything like that. She knew that she would not stay at the Emperor Company for long and would leave after completing her mission. By then, these things would still belong to Michelle. But Luther gave her a recruitment task. The chief officers and senior managers of each department will recruit me as soon as possible. The Imperial Company is currently vacant. Luther planned to give Black Widow an opportunity to let her freely install agents from S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra. These agents are all talented people. Once you enter his door, don't expect to escape. As for whether it will be arranged, Superman drug and compound number 1 are enough to make anyone jealous, especially compound number 1, which can also resist aging. No one can resist their temptation. Even if Nick Fury does not have this intention, Hydra will take action to surpass Nick Fury. Let Black Widow arrange it for them. Black Widow was a little surprised. She didn't expect Luther to leave this kind of thing to her, the newcomer. Could it be that Michelle did something to make Luther feel dissatisfied? Or is Luther really short of people? Or is Luther planning to test her abilities? There are so many possibilities that Black Widow can't even figure them out at the moment. I understand, boss. Black Widow nodded. She couldn't decide this kind of thing on her own. She had to go back and inform Nick Fury to see what he thought, and then she could arrange something. Luther felt very happy, especially watching Black Widow take over her tasks non-stop. Although Michelle felt a little uncomfortable, she still took over the work for Black Widow diligently. Although she felt uncomfortable, she had to be worthy of her position and professionalism, especially since she was in this position now, which could not be handled easily, otherwise she would have been kicked off by Luther. What Luther needs is someone who knows how to advance and retreat, knows what he wants, and can arrange what he wants, not someone who is petty and thinks he is different and a domineering CEO who has to obey my feminism. He even originally planned to find a male executive vice president, but Michelle was indeed outstanding. What he likes most is that Michelle has a flexible mind and can understand with just one click. The immaturity and rawness of her fledgling life are gone now, and she exudes the confidence and aura of a strong woman. Black Widow didn't expect that the Emperor Company had accumulated so many things to deal with. She was busy until 11 o'clock in the evening before she had any free time. Does a big company have so many things to do? Black Widow felt that she really needed to recruit people quickly, otherwise she wouldn't need to do anything else all day long. She would just deal with these matters, and she wouldn't even have time to observe Luther and investigate the Imperial Company. Nick Fury waited for Black Widow for a day, and only received news from Black Widow when he was about to go to bed. He wants to recruit people. Nick Fury immediately realized that this was a good opportunity to install someone, just like Tony Stark did not know that his villa had been planted by renovation workers with a large number of bugs scattered throughout the house. It was easy for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s forces to do this, but when the Imperial Corporation built the building, no one thought it would have such unimaginable development, so it was too late to plant bugs or anything like that. But it didn't say that we can't start from this aspect. We need to arrange manpower as soon as possible, if we need agents to infiltrate, otherwise it would be enough for me to just deal with those things every day, and I won't have time to investigate. Black Widow rubbed her sore feet. She had been walking up and down all day today, and her whole body ached. It felt much more troublesome and strenuous than fighting through a hail of bullets. I understand. I will give you a list when the time comes. For the rest, you can go to those universities to recruit. Nick Fury thought for a moment and said, Monarch Company, a super company with unlimited prospects at present, does not need them to find people themselves. Major headhunting companies have already come to recommend talents, and elite talents from other companies who are eager for promotion channels have also secretly sent their resumes to Monarch Company. Black Widow will have to deal with various resume files and so on in Monarch Company's overflowing mailbox starting tomorrow. Thinking of this, Black Widow had a splitting headache and wanted to give up this task for the first time in her life. In the original plot, she naturally did not need to deal with so many things when she went to Stark Company. Stark Company has been developing for so many years and has everything, including talents. However, Monarch Company has developed too fast, so this problem has arisen. From the top to the bottom, more than 10,000 positions are vacant. You can imagine how much work there is. Luther looked at Black Widow's sad face and her haggard state after a busy day. He felt more pleased than seeing her naked. Because if you open your perspective eyes to see her naked, it is equivalent to seeing all kinds of mites and parasites on her body, and you really don't have that appetite. On the contrary, Luther likes this kind of happiness built on the pain of others. Good night, Black Widow, there will be more fun in the future. Luther left here, and the conversation between Nick Fury and Black Widow naturally did not escape his hearing. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.